that when we come to it at some point tonight, we will be asking people if they would like to make a donation to the Juice Report, and you can via Zapper. But number one, it's not compulsory, and number two, people are just getting a little ahead of themselves. So all they should be doing at this point in time is just tuning into us, and we'll get there. And I see, Hugh,
Cool.
we now what looks like a beautiful light on your roof, and what lovely fingers you have. Fantastic. Just try keep the camera eye level. We can't hear you because you're on mute. But try tilt the camera further down and higher up. So
Wait, just take it easy. I'm just doing stuff here. Wait, Howard. Go and talk to Dan or someone else, man.
More importantly, I'm actually going to talk to Stuart, who's joined us from Cape Town. Stuart, welcome. Nice to have you here.
Thanks, Howard, for having me from the now epicenter of COVID-19.
Oh, that's a little worrisome. So also lighting on your face, it would be great if we could just get some more light, because the light behind you is very bright. So it just darkens your face. And so it would be lovely if we could get a lamp, or if you move a little closer, that gives us far better. And Cindy, great. That light looks fantastic as well. So Stuart, talk to us a little about what is happening in Cape Town. We know you're going to be chatting a little later about what the Board of Deputies is doing, but what's the situation like in Cape Town?
I mean, it's one that the politicians are deeply concerned about, the number of cases. However, I think the one thing that's happening in Cape Town more than maybe in the other metros and other cities and districts across the country is the rollout of testing. I think we're quite far ahead of the testing. We're quite aggressive in the Cape. And I think that's also why you're seeing more cases coming through and more identity and contact identity. So I think from a political point of view, I think we must give credit to the local government and the provincial government in the Cape for their aggressive rollout of testing within the province and within the metro. But from a communal point of view, it's been amazing to see the cross-silo working of all communal structures with one purpose really, which is to protect the Cape community. And that's been something special to be part of.
Well, Stuart, we have seen some trucks being looted in Cape Town, and quite a few stores, particularly liquor stores, being looted as well. Is that an ongoing thing, or are these once-off events that actually happen?
Listen, I think what the COVID-19 has clearly shown, and Minister Dlamini Zuma spoke about it today in his speech, is it's actually showing the fault lines in our young democracy. It's showing that we have massive inequality, that we have poverty in this country, and under pressure like COVID-19 with people not working, people are going hungry. I think the main concern is there's looting of food, but then there's the violent looting of bottle stores and this desperate need for liquor, especially in and around the Cape Flats communities. It is a concern. Between the CSO and the Cape Board, we are watching trends, especially in the northern suburbs of the Cape. Obviously, we need to be concerned at how these could affect our community.
Cool. There haven't been any looting incidents over the last few days, have they?
Not that we've been able to track and see. It's quietened down. There's a much heavier police presence in the Cape Flats and our township communities, especially also in our epicenter communities as well.
Okay. Cindy Cree, you've been working in the townships as well. Tell us what you've been seeing.
So, funnily enough, not a huge police presence, but we, in certain areas, but yesterday we did a food distribution with HCR Foundation, and we gave out, it was 85 food parcels, and we've given out food parcels with Marilyn Basson in Katlehong and Planning on Melbourne and all of that. So, I mean, the need is scarily there, and it's the more as you give, there's just so much need. So it's quite scary and intimidating.
I must say, I belong to a CAN. Ricky Lyons and I run the local CAN for Melrose North here in Johannesburg, and we distributed a set of food on Friday in Kliptown in Soweto. which I don't know if people know Kliptown. It has no running water. It has no tarred roads. It has no government services. They don't even come and collect garbage from the area. But just the level of gratitude and the messages that we've been getting since then, just my hats off to everyone in the Melrose North area and some people in Birdhaven who all contributed literally over a ton of food that we collected on Friday and distributed. We think probably close to 1,000 meals that we actually took in, and more stuff we're taking in on Sunday as well. So
That's
so it's
amazing.
absolute-
Howie, can I actually say something about Kliptown, if you don't mind?
yeah, please, Ariella.
First of all, what you're doing is phenomenal. I mean, you and Rick are just honestly superb human beings. But do you guys know that Kliptown is actually where the ANC Freedom Charter was written? And the travesty of the entire thing is that it is considered the poorest township statistically in the whole of South Africa. And yet that is where the Freedom Charter, and in fact, was written. And in fact, some of South Africa's most phenomenal artists have come out of there, where they've actually used discarded materials, specifically plastics. And Mbongeni Buthelezi is a particular artist who's just finished a residency in Europe, where he would actually pick up discarded plastic from your 6-pack of Fanta and Coke and stuff like that, and welded it so it almost looks like an oil painting. And his whole theory was that in a place where we should be revering that township where so much happened and it's been discarded, is we need to actually collect that which has been left behind, and not only to give a livelihood, but to create something to actually lead by example with hope. So you could not be in a more appropriate township if you guys tried.
So Ariella, if I can, because I'm often in Kliptown and I often go in with Ilan Ossendriver, who runs photographic tours of Kliptown, and I've helped support the soccer team there. One of the great tragedies is that government went and spent hundreds of millions of rands to build a square, because that's where the Freedom Charter was in fact formed. So they stuck up a monument, they built a 5-star hotel, they paved a huge area, and just across the railway lines from the square, where hundreds of millions of rands were spent, are the people of Kliptown who live in abject poverty with no services whatsoever. And that's one of the great tragedies of our government over the last 25 years. But you will never, ever meet nicer people. In fact, when Benjamin Zander was in South Africa, we took him into Kliptown and he spent a day in Kliptown. It was one of the most remarkable experiences you could ever imagine.
Well,
And
Howard, some breaking news in from Israel. We've just had, much I think to the delight of our entire country, especially the medical fraternity, the health minister has stepped down. So, yalla bye.
So your health minister, in fact, got into trouble because despite issuing instructions that people should not attend shul services, he himself went and attended a shul service.
He did that, and so did our Prime Minister, after telling people to socially distance themselves for Lila Seder, managed to spend his Seder with his children, and we're still waiting for his apology. But the good news for Israelis who've put the pressure on over the last couple of weeks is Litzman is now officially stepping down, and that portfolio will hopefully go to the Kahol Levant. They've asked for it. So huge relief around the Holy Land tonight.
Sorry, I cut off there for a minute, but I'm so happy that the entire Ellerin family have joined us.
Hershevitz family.
Sorry, the Hershevitz Ellerin family. Can we say that? So guys, there's so many of you. So number one, you need to all introduce yourselves. And number two, a special one of you actually won a prize in our Saturday night quiz. Was it? So please, Hershevitzes, introduce yourselves, please.
Hi, I'm Jan. I'm the mom.
I'm Mark, the dad and husband.
James, I'm the son.
I'm Sophia. I'm Andy.
So Emily, congratulations. You in fact won a 1,000 Rand voucher from Grill House during our quiz night about 2 weeks ago. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I bet you can't wait for the Grill House to be open again.
Yeah.
And you are going to be asking questions about which country?
Peru.
Peru, fantastic. Awesome. Great, guys. Great to have you on board. And Hugh Reichlin, it looks like you've managed to get many of your technical issues resolved. So, Hugh, you're going to be asking us questions about where?
About Lithuania.
And you've been taking people to Lithuania for a long time, have you not?
Yeah, I've been traveling the country since 1987. I beg your pardon, 1997. I traveled a couple of times with groups and with individuals, and for the last few years I've been taking Jewish heritage tours.
So how many times have you actually been, Hugh?
Oh, a number of times. I haven't been keeping track of them a number of times, but I just want to tell you that for tonight I'm actually wearing a typical Lithuanian yarmulke that they used to wear. I don't wear it in Johannesburg, I think for obvious reasons. But
can you take it off and show us what it looks like?
It actually looks like the face mask that the president was wearing the other day.
So
does anybody remember the shamas in the shul wearing them?
I was about to say that looks exactly like the sort of kippah that the shamas in the shul would wear.
Exactly. And those are the Litvische Yidden that brought it from Lithuania. So I thought, we'd do something. There's a bit of a gimmick tonight.
That's absolutely amazing. Hugh, great to have you with us. And I see we joined from Cape Town as well by Gina Flash. So Gina, I'm going to unmute you. You obviously run the Mensch Network. Tell us a little about the Mensch Network. And for those people who are joining us, we're going live exactly at 8 o'clock. And this is our informal chat before we go live. So Gina, tell us about the Mensch Network.
Hey, Howard, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. I've been wanting to share a bit about what's been going on down in Cape Town, because although we are a national network, there are a lot more people that we're actively working with down here. But that being said, we have about 120 Jewish people working around the country that are social entrepreneurs or people working in social development of some kind, in the public sector, in the medical sector. And there are tons and tons of initiatives, as you know, that people can get behind and support. And we just really want to promote the multitude of organizations, of projects that have popped up and platforms that people can support and can find on our website. I think one of the most exciting things that I've seen happen, we work with, as I say, over 120 people on a day-to-day basis. And our whole mission as Mensch is to engage the Jewish community in social change. So, I mean, at the moment, it's what everyone's looking to do, which is a beautiful thing to see. And it allows us to think, I think, while we're looking at technically what's happening right now and feeding people, as Stuart was saying, getting to and yourselves and Cindy, getting to the absolute crisis point has opened a lot of people's eyes. And I think strategically, we've got a lot to learn going forward. And it's all about partnerships and it's all about networks. So I'd just be, really excited to share about some of the platforms that have been set up that are doing just that. And we've got a lot of Jewish people in our community to be very proud of and who really need our support.
So you are going to talk during the show about a few of those platforms, but you've got maybe another minute or two now to tell us about ones you're not going to be talking about, to give them some exposure. Tell us about some of your favorites that you won't be featuring tonight.
Oh, well, I'm not sure how many I can feature in the 2 minutes that we've got on the show, but I'll tell you about a couple of things that I'm especially proud of, and that's individuals who pivoted. So they were doing one thing and are unable to do that for whatever reason during lockdown. So they pivoted and they're, like many people are doing masks and are doing food. These organizations are working on the ground already. So they're established, they know communities. So one of my ones that is close to my heart, because we're actually working with them on a project called Project Buy It, which is all about housing. So we were about to launch where we were offering interest-free loans to individuals in the Jewish community to partner with someone that works with them to co-finance the rebuilding of a shack. So rebuilding a shack, one that actually has fire resistance and is flood retardant, and that's an organization called the Chayil Army. Now they at the moment can't build, and so we've had to put that project on hold to a certain extent, but they are deeply entrenched in Khayelitsha, in Gugulethu, and in Langa. And so they have pivoted all of their organization using their staff on the ground, and they're doing food delivery. So these are people that have donors that they ordinarily work with, and they can literally literally in a matter of weeks have transformed their business into food. So I'm most proud about that, and that there's abilities for people to move and to connect. And the other thing are a couple of platforms. I think you might have mentioned on the show with the doctors, your medical panel, about Corona Care. So there's a woman down here in Cape Town, Olivia Croc, who's been deeply involved in creating that. There's another one called One Love SA, and they are doing also a feeding scheme, but it's a platform. So it's a matching system where people can go on, look for what they want to support, and then directly impact that sector. So obviously there's a lot of focus on food and creating face masks and selling them as a way for people to earn income at the moment. But I'm especially proud of network members who are young and dynamic. Actually, Anna Cheval and Olivia Croc are both Johannesburg of origin, and they have, through their work that throughout the year or throughout all of this time, have been developing contacts. And it's now that those contacts pay off. It's like when something's urgent, you find someone who can do the job. And through doing this work and for us supporting them, means we have those relationships with them, and we can connect people very directly to what's needed. So that's why on our website, you'll see, you can go straight in from the homepage. There is a whole selection of Jewish individuals doing great work. People like Alan Brody, with SA Harvest, someone like that partnering with a Gidon Novik. This is how I think the Jewish community can really, really have huge impact in South Africa, is that we can do our CSI, but we can do our charity, or we can actually get in there and partner with business. I think the public-private partnerships that are going to come out of this crisis in particular, we're going to see hopefully building a new South Africa.
Howie, we can't hear you. Muted.
Sorry, I've unmuted myself now. I was saying we've got Jeremy Bortz joining us as well. Jeremy, tell us, where are you joining us from?
Hi, Howie. Good evening, everyone. I'm joining you from London. I love the summer's evening here in the UK. How's everyone doing?
Well, tell us what's happening in London with COVID. It looks like a little bit of a disaster from afar.
Jazza, are you in lockdown quarantine on your houseboat? In your houseboat?
Yes, I am, Dan. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, we haven't quite been as strict as South Africa. I think we went into lockdown probably about a month ago. You're allowed out for the usual, if you need to go buy essential food, if you need medical supplies. But we've also been allowed to go out once a day for a bit of exercise, which has been fantastic. So been walking and running, and that's been a real savior. So but much the same here. People are nervous, people are scared, people are worried. I think the messaging from our politicians has been certainly not as clear as in South Africa, and that's caused quite a bit of uncertainty and confusion. But I think it's tough times all around, to be honest.
And tell me, Dan said you live on a houseboat. Tell us about that.
Yeah. My wife Catherine and I, we live on a houseboat. We've just moved onto our new houseboat probably about a month ago, in fact, just before we went into lockdown. So that was quite tight. But we live on a houseboat. We ordinarily we move every 2 weeks, but those restrictions have been eased. So at the moment we're staying in one place, and she's great.
What is the boat called?
Ubuntu, which
okay.
Yeah, which in these times seems like an ever more relevant concept and philosophy. So it's been an amazing journey. We built her. Well, we didn't build her. We had her built, but we designed her. So it's been something we've been doing probably for the last 18 months. And she made it down, as I said, to London. She was being built up north near Lancaster. She made it down to London just before we went into lockdown. So very, very grateful and very chuffed. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, welcome. Great to have you in from London. And let's see, who haven't we spoken to? Dan Brotman. Now, Dan, if anyone would think of dark tourism, it's probably got to do with you. You have been to some of the most obscure, ridiculous countries in the world. Tell us where you've been to.
Yeah, well, I tend to run towards the countries that people are running away from. I guess I started my dark tourism journey last year when I went to North Korea and Iran. And I'm going to be presenting tonight my latest trip, which was to Eritrea this past February, right before borders started to close.
Wow. So you have in fact been living in South Africa. You're heading to Canada. I have no idea where in the world you are.
I'm in Morningside, Johannesburg.
Ah, okay. So you're not too far away from us. But tell us a little about North Korea. Let's actually get a sense and a feel of what North Korea is like.
Well, North Korea, I mean, first of all, North Korea has closed its borders down. And so I cannot imagine tourists being able to go there anytime in the next 1 to 2 years. So I feel very privileged that I got to see it. I was part of a group and I was probably one of 50 tourists in the entire country. I was definitely the only American in North Korea. It's actually a felony for US passport holders to enter with a US passport to North Korea. It's the only country that our passports don't work for. But I decided to go to North Korea shortly after becoming a South African citizen. So I went to North Korea. I think what was really unique about the experience, besides for the fact that we were like the only foreigners there, was that we constantly had to be watched. So we had 2 tour guides who had to watch each other, and then we had a bus driver and a cameraman who were also watching each other. So there was constant surveillance between the staff members, but also the participants. We couldn't leave the hotel without someone accompanying us, going to the toilet without someone taking us there. And we were very careful about what we said in our hotel room because they were likely bugged.
Wow. So you've also been to Iran. You're not the only South African Jewish person who's been to Iran as well. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, so I went to Iran, which was also an incredible experience. Very few foreigners were going. I would say 2 of the very unique experiences that I had in Iran was I was actually there for I think it was the 40th anniversary of Ayatollah Khomeini returning to Iran from exile in Paris. And I was actually at his tomb with our tour group, and his official Instagram page interviewed me. What do you think about Ayatollah Khomeini? And what does it mean to you to be here today? And I don't really think they knew who exactly they were talking to, but I thought it was very interesting that someone of my background was being interviewed by his official Instagram page on the anniversary of his return. The other unique experience is I got to spend an entire day with the Jewish community of Tehran. I also went to shul in Esfahan. And as the result of that trip, I actually brought 2 Jewish leaders from Iran to South Africa for Limud last year, and they toured Pretoria, Joburg, and Cape Town. I think you're on mute.
Sorry, Dan. I was saying we're going to hear from you a little later on. You'll be asking questions about Eritrea. Is that correct?
Correct. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dan. Benji Shulman, we haven't heard from you yet. You tonight are telling us a little about the work done by the South African Friends of Israel in the townships. Tell us a little about that. And just before you answer, just to tell people, welcome on board. You should be watching us either on Zoom or alternatively on our YouTube channel as well. You would also have a link to a Google spreadsheet. So please click on the Google spreadsheet. A lot of people are getting stuck on page 2. You're intentionally getting stuck on page 2. So don't WhatsApp us or message us and ask us what happens after page 2. You will find out in due course. So we control how far you can actually get on the document itself. So Benji, tell us a little about what's happening with the South African Friends of Israel and some of the work that you guys are doing.
Hello, Howie. How are you doing? And hello to everyone out there. So nice to see so many faces that I can't see now that I can't leave my house. So I'm from the South African Friends of Israel. That is a network of pro-Israel organizations that are not Jewish, mainly Christian, but not only. And we work with them generally on political issues. But now they stand up for Israel, which is obviously very unpopular to do if you're not Jewish. And now they're really looking to us for help. They're often based in very small isolated communities or in townships, and they're saying, how can we help? So we've been working with Cadena SA, who I think was on one of your previous talk shows. And we've been working with them to give out virus protection packs, so masks, food, sanitizer, and just basically working in these places to try and help the people who've been helping the community. So that's really where we've been going. Howie, I think you muted again, maybe?
Please tell us about the masks that you have. Are they paper masks? Are they the material masks that the country's after at the moment? Are people sticking it over their eyes like our president, or getting them in the right place?
So the particular face with the Kadena aspect has been that members of the Jewish community are actually making masks. Kadena has been giving out material, and then we have volunteers in the community who are making them. And we've also been able to get some materials to seamstresses and seamsters, if that's the right word, in townships so that they can make for their own community. There are cloth masks. This is, we're not helping the medical professionals. That's a different type of thing. But the masks have been very well received. And in fact, some of the work that's been done was covered by an Asian news channel just the other day. So I understand our masks are big in Japan as well.
It's good to be big in Japan, that's for sure. So Dan, you're talking about your travels to Iran and Eritrea and other obscure places. Really made me think, I would love to know where everyone has gone to that's the most obscure place you've ever gone to. So I'm going to start with Hugh Reichland. Hugh, where is the most obscure place that you've actually been to?
I think I've been to basically conventional places. I can't think of obscure. Perhaps somewhere in Eastern Europe, like Belarus, might be the most obscure that I've been to, because it was the one that was the closest throwback to what I believe, Eastern Europe looked like in the 18th and 19th century.
That's amazing. So I think Belarus is a fantastic one. Gina, you look like you're really well traveled. Where's the most obscure place you've been to?
Am I unmuted? Yeah, I lived in a small town north of Chiang Mai in Thailand for 8 or 9 months, running an NGO there. So that was pretty obscure. The only time it was mentioned was called Phang, written like Fang, but pronounced Phang. And it literally is mentioned in The Lonely Planet as a place to drive through before you get to the next town. Not a great place.
But that's as obscure as I think as we get. Hershowitz family, tell us, you travel as a family. You were in Peru last year. Tell us where else you've been really obscure.
Sure, we've been to quite a few different places. The last one that was far-flung, maybe not obscure, but far-flung, was New Zealand, which was fascinating to see. We were on a boat and went around North and South Island for a few weeks, which was quite incredible. But also been to some interesting places: Cuba, Ukraine, Vietnam, Mexico. These all kind of spring to mind.
Amazing. And just a reminder to everyone, we're starting in a minute or two as people join us this evening. Stuart, tell us about obscure places you may have gone to.
A little village in Uruguay called Colonia, and a couple of other villages in and around it. Other than that, I've pretty much stayed to mainland travel.
Okay, fantastic. I know Ariella is not going to disappoint us. Tell us about obscure places. We've been to Greece together, and we were in Portugal last year at the same time, but not together. So tell us about some obscure places you visited.
Well, I'm very blessed because I have a husband who enjoys travel as much as me. And just to give an idea of last year alone, thank God, had we known lockdown, we would have certainly been proud of ourselves. We did Serengeti, Rwanda, Japan for the World Cup, Europe, Portugal, London, the usual on those ones. And then we ended our year with Antarctica, as one does. So we decided to go to Antarctica in the South Pole. And that was probably one of the most fascinating experiences we've done, which I'll talk about a bit later because I know that's part of the questionnaire. But I think I've counted something like 42 countries if I had to put on my list. St. Petersburg is high up there. I've got to tell you, it's phenomenal. But I think Rwanda, Antarctica, and Japan are probably going to be sitting on my 3 favorites of the moment. Quite fascinating. I think the experiences that you gain from travel is unprecedented and nothing you'll ever gain from a classroom for all of those who are under 15 sitting listening into tonight's race.
Amazing. So it's just gone 8 o'clock. We're going to begin in another minute or two. Just while we doing that, Cindy, are you a traveler at all? Oh, sorry.
Traveler. I could travel our country 1,000 times over.
So what's your favorite part of South Africa?
Definitely garden route. I love, oh God, I just can't blank what it's called. Delstrom. It's my absolute best.
Okay, fantastic.
I think it's just beautiful. And Putiji Jaba. I've never been there, but I just love it. There's just something about it.
Well, I'm not sure Putiti Chaba is on one of the tourism hotspots around the world, and I want to welcome everyone who's joined us. We've got quite a few people on YouTube. We've got about 210 teams who've joined us as well. We have a question, and Dan, maybe you can answer this question. People want to know if they can have teams that are not in their home, that are in fact across country. I'm talking to Dan Stillerman because we have so many Dans on this panel. And also we keep on getting questions about people who keep on depositing money into Zapper, hoping something will happen. So please don't put any money into Zapper. We will tell you what Zapper is for, and we'll tell you what the code is to move on at the absolute relevant time.
You can send it to me, Howie. It's fine. The money, I'm happy to take it.
Dan Stillerman, people are asking, can you be a part of a team that's in London and Johannesburg at the same time?
Well, Howie, it's a good question. I think we should ask Dina as well, because, I mean, there's one Google form link, which I've shared via email and WhatsApp and on the chat here. So how would it work if you've got one person in Joburg and one in London? Do you think it will work?
I think it's going to be pretty difficult unless you're in WhatsApp contact with each other, but every login should be a team, and we will be measuring how the teams in fact progress. And
sorry, I'm here. Yes, I would agree with that. You have to actually be with the team unless you are sharing via WhatsApp. It's going to be very difficult.
Let them have competitive teams from London and South Africa. It makes it more interesting.
But listen, people are welcome to collaborate. That's what technology is for.
Yeah. Now, Howie, quick question. You're going to do an intro. Can we start to send all the panelists back to the audience and then bring them up one by one?
We certainly can. So if we can, if you will just leave Dina Diamond, yourself and myself here, we will take everyone else into the audience and we'll explain to you how tonight is actually working. So first of all, a huge welcome from the South African Jewish Report. It really is such a treat to be able to do this. This is, in fact, I think our 10th or 11th panel that we've been running over the last few weeks. Some of our panels have attracted more than 10,000 people. We've had quiz nights, We've had comedians on, we've had, in fact, medical professionals, we've had psychologists, we've been had health and fitness people, and it's been amazing to really look, and more than 20,000 people have participated over the last few weeks in the panels that we've actually run. And it's also been so delightful that we could highlight some of the remarkable work done by so many people in our community and in the broader community as they deliver food, as they create masks for people, as they actually try help South Africa get through this enormously difficult period of time. So Dina and I will be hosting tonight together with Dan Stillerman, who has been on every panel, all of the 11 panels. He used to be young and sprightly. Look at him now. That's what we've done to him. He's aged a good 10 years in the last 3 weeks. Dan,
my vitality age has gone up 4 years alone.
And just a huge thank you to Dan. You're going to be taking Stuart off the panel any moment here. But on behalf of the Jewish Report, we really just want to thank you all for attending, and we want to tell you about a few of the buttons at the bottom of your screen. So you will see there's a chat button, and there's a chat going on the side of your panel. Please comment as you go, tell us what's happening, talk about things tonight. We're going to be monitoring that and looking at that. If you have a prize that you'd like to donate for people who may win tonight or do really well tonight, please use the Q&A. we'll be looking at the Q&A, and that's just for donors who want to, in fact, give donations tonight for the winners. And I'd like to thank Dina Diamond, because Dina Diamond, this was your idea for an amazing race. We've had quiz night, we've had variety shows on Saturday nights, but we've never done an amazing race before. So tell me how you came up with this idea.
So I was trying to think what else we could do digitally. I was actually also looking at the escape room, and when I thought, well, everyone's stuck at home, everyone is dying to get out and can't travel. So how do we make people travel digitally? So, and also we wanted to make it competitive. We wanted to make it fun. We wanted families to be able to join together, teams to be able to join together. So we thought we can learn, we can grow, we can travel all at the same time, hopefully on a digital platform. We've never tried this before. So please bear with us if there are any technical issues. We're going to have the Google form. People will be able to fill it out as they go along. We've got amazing people with amazing places, such interesting countries, places that no one, trust me, has potentially been to, like the Eritreas, etc., Antarctica. So I think we've got an amazing evening lined up for you. I think we've got amazing people on our panel, and I think everyone's going to have a lot of fun.
Fantastic. So everyone watching has received the link to a Google form, and Dan, you've posted that in the chat section as well. So we need everyone to go in, copy out of the chat section, open up your Google form, and your Google form will ask you a few questions. The first question it's going to ask you is, in fact, what is your email address? What is your team name? And we want to know who are your team members. So once you've completed, that's the first page of that form, you can click on next, and everyone seems to be stuck on page 2 of the form. And that is by no means coincidence. So we have deliberately stuck you on page 2 of the form, and because we do have a few things that we would like to tell you, and I'm going to do that by sharing a screen with you now, and so you can understand why we have a Zapper form and a Wallet Doc form there tonight.
Hi, I'm Howard Sackstein, Chairman of the South African Jewish Report. And we at the Jewish Report believe that Jewish organizations would be made or broken by how they serve their community during this impossibly difficult time. Our first decision was to continue to publish and to deliver newspapers not just to shops, but to people's townhouses and apartment blocks as well. Because feeling part of a community is one of the greatest services we could ever deliver to the Jews of South Africa. Our second decision was to create a platform for information, education and entertainment for the entire Jewish community and for South Africa as a whole. Over the past few weeks, we have created Zoom panels that have attracted tens of thousands of viewers. Some of the best healthcare specialists in South Africa gave practical advice on how to stay safe during Corona. Psychologists taught people how to stay sane, and wellness experts made sure that our minds and bodies were kept fit and healthy. One of the things we are most proud of is how we have highlighted the work done by so many Jews and Jewish organizations in feeding the needy and producing masks for both our own community as well as the townships. But now we at the Jewish Report face our own challenges to survive as advertising dries up. And so we are appealing to you. If you are one of our 55,000 readers, or if you are amongst the tens of thousands of people who have enjoyed our Zoom panels, now we at the Jewish Report are asking for your support. Please give generously to us so we can continue to publish and continue to serve you in this remarkable fashion.
So Dina, I want to stop there because I think there are many people, whether it's actually the readers of the Jewish Report newspaper, and we have 55,000 of those people, or whether it's the people we've delivered copies of the newspaper to at enormous cost during lockdown, because we've delivered to people's apartment buildings, we've delivered through to blocks of flats, we've delivered through to townhouses. Throughout South Africa, we've actually continued to publish the Jewish Report newspaper, and we've had tens of thousands of people who've participated in these panels, all panels that we continue. And the important thing is, we need to survive as a newspaper. We have a remarkable editor in Peter Cross-Maunder. We have an amazing CEO in Danny Kedar. We have an entire team of journalists. Dina, you and I both sit on the board. We're non-executive on the board. But we need to make sure that during these difficult times, that in fact the Jewish Report continues to survive. And as we know, advertising has really dried up in our publication and every publication during lockdown. So we've given people on page 2 of their form, we've given them a Zapper code. If you have Zapper, please take out Zapper or use it, or alternatively, just click on that link, the link that we've given you on page 2 of that form. Just make a donation. And we're going to stop here for a minute or so just to give people the opportunity to make a donation, to show their appreciation, to show their thanks for the remarkable work that everyone at the Jewish Report has been doing. Dina, what do you think?
So Howie, listen, I couldn't agree more. I think that first of all, we have an unbelievable team, a remarkable team at the Jewish Report, and as well as you, who's led every single panel, and Dan, who has tirelessly put them all together and dealt with all the panelists, all the back-end tech stuff. You are an absolute legend. So thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. None of this just happens by accident. It doesn't just happen in a day. So it takes lots of man hours, it takes lots of time, it takes lots of energy, lots of effort. So to all the panelists who've been part of our panels, thank you so much. Your input is unbelievable. It's greatly appreciated. I'm getting messages constantly about how they've helped, whether it be the fitness, whether it be the psychological, even just the games nights, which help sort of break the sort of stagnation of being at home all the time. And I think, yeah, it would be just to, I mean, we have a huge audience, not just in South Africa, but globally in terms of the Jewish community and outside the community. So I think that it's a great opportunity. If you can help us, that would be so greatly appreciated. Again, we've all faced a time that it is unprecedented. I know everyone hates that word, but it is unprecedented. And we have staff and we have costs that we do have to cover, but of course it has been our absolute pleasure to assist the community during this difficult time.
So Dina, we came up with this really very sneaky scheme to allow people to stop to be able to donate for a minute, and I think we've done that. And now, in order to progress in the form, and by the way, donations are not compulsory, they're donations.
Not at all.
We'd love you to donate, but if you're unable to do so, we absolutely understand. But Dina, you have a secret code now that will allow people to progress in the form. But before we give that to people, let us just explain, this is a race. There is no way that every team is going to manage to get through every question in every section. That's why it's a race. We also want you to know that it's fine to cheat. You can Google, you can look up, you can call a friend, you can post things in the chat section. We think in the time limit we're going to give you per section, which is 7 minutes per section, we think there is no way you're going to complete that section. But we'll tell you when that section ends, and you'll be able to click on the button and get through to the next section of the form. So please feel free to use Google. Some of the questions are easy. Some of them are absolutely impossibly difficult. But we've got probably about 140 questions, and they're going to be 7 minutes per section. Don't think you're going to be able to complete them all. And with that, Dina, can you tell us what is the secret code?
Well, before I quickly go there, I just want to tell people that, yes, they absolutely have to try and do as much as possible in the shortest time. And we will give them a code to continue. But yeah, so just good luck and stay strong. And yes, Google, call a friend, go 50-50, ask the audience. And with the next, to just kick us off, well, it's going to work is also, we're going to start with a country. We're going to have people that we're going to bring on who essentially are presenting that country. They're not going to ask you every single question on the screen. There will maybe be talking about it. So you should have your Zoom open at the same time as you have your Google form open, because they could say something that will give you an answer to some of the questions that are in there, because they will be discussing, because those questions do come from them, those people who are actually going to present. So keep your Zoom open and keep your Google Docs open so that you can answer the questions, but listen to us at the same time, because we are going to be discussing the countries with those people. All right. And without further ado, the first code word, ironically enough, is, sorry, Dan, have you got a
I've got a quick question. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but a lot of people are asking for the Zapper code, the wallet doc link, and the banking details. So we'll send all of it in an email, but maybe we should just post it in the chat now and maybe pull up that Zapper code on the screen just so that people can get their donations done before we start. Do you think?
Okay. I'm going to pull it up right now. So I'm going to share the Zapper code. That's the Zapper code. Everyone has that on their screen as well. So let's take a minute or so. Just if you have Zapper on your phone, we are getting SnapScan as well. And in one moment, I'm going to swap over for WalletDoc. So WalletDoc, I'm going to tell you what the code is on WalletDoc.
And we can post the WalletDoc link in the chat as well.
Absolutely.
I'm having difficulty. There we can see it.
There we go. It's walletdoc.com/pay/SAJR.
And all of the donations we received tonight go to the Jewish Report.
Perfect. And then also, as you say, Dan will put that in the link.
So Dina, you are the holder of the secret code. All our secret codes are going to be lowercase. Is that correct?
Indeed. So just not to confuse anyone, so you get it correct, all the codes we give you are lowercase. Are you ready for the first code?
I'm ready for the first code.
But wait, before we give you the code, I think we should pull up the Hershevitz family, who is going to be presenting the next section. Then can we do that?
So I think I'm pulling up Dion Ellerin.
You are indeed, yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. But how about this? Dina, give the secret code. People have 7 minutes.
Okay. Well,
and while that goes, we'll chat. I'll time it. What's the secret code?
Guys, secret code is Howie, H-O-W-I-E, all lowercase, H-O-W-I-E. Howie is your first code.
People have 7 minutes to answer a ridiculously difficult question put together by the Hershevitz Ellerin family. So Ellerin Hershevitz, when last were you in Peru?
We're in Peru about, how's it, Howie? How are you doing?
Hello, Mark. Nice to see you. Introduce yourself again.
The whole family's here.
I'm Mark.
I'm Diane.
James.
Emily and Sophia.
So James, aren't you supposed to be writing matric at the moment?
I am indeed.
And shouldn't you be at school?
I think so.
Cool. So guys, tell us, when were you in Peru?
So we travel as a family as often as we can, and we're in Peru about 2 years ago. It was an extraordinary place. We got there by flying via Sao Paulo, and we were there for about 2 weeks.
And what was your favorite part of Peru?
So my favorite part was Lake Titicaca. Even though I could not breathe, I had to wear oxygen, use oxygen. So at one hand I had oxygen on, and the other hand I had a gin and tonic.
So we like balance. Good balance.
On Lake Titicaca, do you visit the floating villages on the lake?
You do.
Tell us a little about these floating villages.
So the villages are extraordinary because they're built on reeds, and they float on reeds, and they're dropped by a few meters every year. So they keep adding more reeds to it to pile it up. And it's whole communities. Each community lives on an island. There are about 35 of these islands. And it's the highest navigable lake in the world, which is very difficult to breathe there.
So did you have cocoa tea?
Tons of cocoa tea, tons of medication that you've got to take prior, and a lot of oxygen. All the hotels have oxygen rooms.
Sure. Absolutely. So you can get that pumped into your room, I believe. And well, actually, I've been to Peru, so I know this. You can get it pumped into your room.
I want to know where else you went to. So maybe some of the junior Hershowitzes can tell us where else you went to in Peru.
So we went to Machu Picchu, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world, which was incredible. And it was just incredible to tick that off the bucket list at such a young age. And the views from there were out of this world. So it was like a really great thing to go to. And even the train ride up was incredible. It was like a double glass train. So you could see the whole mountain all the way up.
And one of the most amazing things in that double cast train is the fact that, I don't know if you saw, they do a fashion show. And they wander down in their alpaca jerseys down the aisle and do a fashion show for you while you're traveling up or down to Machu Picchu.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Did you guys get as well to see the Nazca lines?
No. We didn't get that far. We weren't in the desert part of Peru. That's more on the eastern part of the country. We were mainly in the western central part of the country.
And so did you guys do the Inca Trail at all?
We did. It was amazing doing the Inca Trail.
The whole family. That's very
lying, Tina. We did not walk it. We went up by train.
It was a great train ride. We did the Inca Trail by train ride, which was quite amazing to see.
I was on your page. Yeah.
So just to remind people who are on the Peru section at the moment, you have about 3 or 4 minutes to go on that section. So you should be racing through. We don't expect you to finish that section altogether. Some of those questions are impossibly difficult. Who in the Hershowitz family actually designed those difficult questions?
All in.
So, Mark,
yes.
What do you think the most difficult question is there? And can you give someone a clue?
Yes, I think it's the last question, which is the MATE Museum, M-A-T-E Museum, which is who is the person that the museum honors. The museum is in Lima. It's a photographic museum. And the guy's name as a first part of the clue is Mario.
So can we presume the last name would be Mate, M-A-T-E?
Well, it begins with T-E. So it's the first 2 letters of his first name and first 2 letters of his last name. He's a famous photographer. He's done many shoots and covers for Vogue and other international magazines.
Fantastic. And what do you think the easiest question is there?
The highest navigable lake in the world.
And you've already given that answer. So if people haven't done that yet, answered that question yet, you actually gave it away.
We did.
So you got to give something away. And did you guys buy anything? Did you buy alpaca goods?
We did.
So we bought we bought this pom-pom thing, and then we bought the skirt. This is the traditional skirt.
Very nice. Wear that often.
Oh, that's beautiful. Now, can you tell me the difference between an alpaca and a llama?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, they're all looking to me to answer this. I can tell you the similarities. They're both spit.
So in fact, did any of you have an animal spit at you?
Yes, Amelie.
When we say an animal, we don't mean members of your family, Amelie. So we've got about 1 minute left for people to complete the Peru section. If the Hershowitz Ellerins were to guess, how many people would get on average right in the Peru section in 7-8 minutes like we've been doing? What would your guess be?
Sure, I'd hope about 70 to 80%. Dion disagrees.
Wow, I think you're being optimistic there. Dion, what do you think?
I think 50%. I think Mark thinks people know more about countries that they haven't been to than that actually is. So
we are going to be a little generous and give an extra minute, because on the first one, we want to make sure that people get some good groundwork. I imagine people are on their phones busy Googling away at the moment, trying to see how many they can in the time limit. Dina, you looked at some of those questions. Those are hard questions, hey?
They are. Listen, I must say that I actually have been to Peru, so I would have known some of those, but had I not been, I would have found some of them difficult. I definitely would have had to look them up. And even though you hear names like Lake Titicaca, you're not sure whether or not that could be the answer to a question.
That's fantastic. And I want to tell you that people have come in with some donations. So in fact, we've already got donations from the Dark Kitchen, Voodoo Lily, Arbor Cafe. In fact, Jeremy Danheiser has come in and he's donating a 28-page A4 photo book from Pick Books for someone's holiday. That's a fantastic prize. And we also have a donation coming in with career coaching sessions via Zoom from Clayton Donnelly. Clayton, thank you so much. We're going to be very excited to give that away. If you would in fact like to make any donations this evening as prizes, please feel free, and we'll certainly allow you to do that. Please just post in the Q&A section. And with that, I'm going to say time is now up on Peru. Dina, people need to move on, and that requires a secret code in the very last question on the page. So Dina, what is that secret code? And as you told us before, it's all lowercase.
Okay, it's a 3-letter word, guys. So you'll see at the very bottom, even if you haven't finished your questions, you need to type in the word new, N-E-W.
If you type in new and go next, it will take you into the next section. NEW is the code, whether you finish the section on Peru or not. NEW, and next, if you don't put in the words new into the last question, it will not let you progress onto our new section. And with that, I'm going to ask, in fact, Dan to remove the Ella and Hershowitzes from the screens. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You're amazing. We love you. Thank you for the input. Mark especially helped us on the forms. Thank you.
Mark's been an absolute superstar, I must tell you, and he's helped not just on that form, he's helped on many, many forms, and we're now on the second section. So just a reminder, the last question, the answer was new. Without putting in the word new in lower cases, you wouldn't be able to move on to the next section, and the next section is in fact New Zealand, and the clock has begun. You've got 7 minutes on the New Zealand section, which is in fact is the section that's been put together by Dan Stillerman. Dan, nice to have you on the panel and talking for a change.
Thank you, Howie, and thank you, Dina, because you offered huge assistance with these panel questions, with the New Zealand questions. So yeah, good to be here, guys. Good to be here. I've actually pulled up a photo of us proudly at Westpac Stadium in Wellington. I'm not going to give too much away about Wellington as a city, but there you can see us. This was 2011 during the Rugby World Cup. I can bring Jeremy up back onto the panel because he was right next to me there in Wellington.
No, we'll hear from Jeremy at the right time. So besides for sheep, what is there to see in New Zealand?
Sure, there's so much to do and so much to see. Speaking of sheep, I don't know if this is actually a question, maybe I shouldn't mention this, but there are an absolute fortune of sheep. I'm not going to mention how many sheep there are because that's question number 2. But there's so much to do in New Zealand. It's the adventure sports capital of the world. So they are just crazy about their bungee jumping and their cliff jumping and their shot over canyon swinging and canyon jets and their zorbing and losing.
Dan, I'm going to stop you for a second because David Schmuckle is asking us, what was the code to get from the section on Peru into the section on New Zealand? And the answer was new, NEW, all lowercase. So if we can just put that in the last section. Yeah, please put it in the chat. I see my father's has put it on the chat, but he's also put in Vic. So I'm not sure who Vic is. But new it is. So the first code to get from into the Peru section was Howie, Howie, all lowercase. The second to get from Peru into New Zealand is in fact new, NEW, all lowercase. Sorry, Dan, you were on the word zorbing or zorping. What exactly is that?
They've got all sorts of things. So the zorb is when you enter this massive, like spherical ball, this rubber ball filled with a bit of water sometimes, and it rolls down a hill and you're inside this ball either on your own or with somebody. So it's just a crazy wacky experience. And yeah, as I say, they are, I think they invented the bungee. There was a guy decades ago who just decided to tie a rope to his ankles and jump off a bridge.
As one does.
It wasn't very high. I don't think in fact, they definitely don't have the highest bungee jump in the world, but they've got bungee all over the show. Also, something interesting that happened with us in New Zealand, we went around, so you hire a camper van. That's typically the best way to get around New Zealand, and you drive around and you sleep wherever and you just park it, and it's really amazing. You got the full freedom to just go and explore, and you can put the camper van onto the ferry that takes you from the North Island to the South Island. And yeah, it's just an absolutely beautiful place. I must say, some of the friendliest people in the world. We thought maybe they were just friendly because it was the Rugby World Cup and everyone was very festive, but they were just, you could see, authentically very, very friendly. They were welcoming us into their homes. They couldn't do enough for us, even, and they had huge respect for us as the Springboks. I mean, we were in our Springbok kit most of the time during the World Cup, and they had huge respect. I mean, there was like a good, healthy rivalry, but huge respect for the Springboks.
I'm going to ask Dina to give us a clue, because one of the questions is the Maori population in New Zealand. Dina, how many are there?
So you want a clue? Okay, so there's not
a lot, a little bit.
So I'd say proportionately to the population, it's definitely less than a half. That's maybe where I should just go. Shall I give you better clues?
Give us a better clue.
Half of a half.
a half and a half. I have no idea what that means. But also New Zealand is famous for small species of animals, you tell us. And you've given us kangaroos, dolphins, sea lions, and bats. Ooh, give us that answer. Come, Dina. Help us through. We've got about 3 minutes left in the section.
I'll tell you,
we have to help people in the section.
Outed after this COVID story, so let's get rid of the bat.
Okay, no more bats.
Is the kangaroo really a New Zealand thing or an Australian thing?
No, I think it's an Australian thing, don't you think?
It's an Australian thing. So potentially we're looking at more seafaring, but one that people love to play with and swim with.
Okay, fantastic. That's a good clue. Dan, so tell us about the rugby. How was the rugby? You went to go watch there. What is it like watching the All Blacks on home territory?
That must have been
wow. Let me tell you something. It was one of the most spine-tingling moments in my sporting life, probably in my whole life, because when you're at Eden Park, and that's pretty much, I think, the home of All Black rugby, and you know, compared to Ellis Park or Loftus, when the haka is on and the Springbok fans are cheering and booing and singing ole ole ole, and there's a whole racket, and you can barely hear anything from the actual field. There you can hear a pin drop, and they have this microphone there right under the front, the leader of the All Blacks haka, and I literally had chills. It was quite an incredible experience. Also, I mean, the weather there plays a huge part. So the one night we actually watched, I think, France Canada in Napier, which is a little town in the South Island. Jeremy will be able to verify that. But it was at night. It was so cold. We bought 4 beers, and we put them under the seats. And the beers actually got colder as the match went on because the weather was just so cold. It's the land of the long white cloud. It is very cold. It is very rainy, very green, beautiful and green. Some of the most spectacular scenery I've ever seen in my life, specifically on South Island. We went to the Fox Glacier, where you put your crampons on those shoes with that let you like go and hike through the glacier, and it was just an incredible experience. Queenstown was wild. We had so much fun there. It was really, really awesome. Can highly.
What I wanted to hear about was the thermal springs, the hot springs. There's also a question on that. Do you want to give our audience...
Dina, before we get onto that, we've had a request for the codes from Nikki Walder. They got disconnected. So Nikki, I'm not quite sure where you got disconnected. If you got disconnected just after Zappa, the first code that took you onto Peru was called Howie, Howie. And then after Peru, to get onto New Zealand, The code was NEW, N-E-W. I think Dina is busy putting that in the section now. We're nearly up. We've got like 1 or 2 minutes left in the New Zealand section. And I want to thank David Zardel, who has donated us 10 copies of his book that he wrote. And it's called Life on the Run. 10 copies of his book, David Zardel. He's stuck that in the Q&A section. That's an amazing prize. Thank you so much. And the Hershowitz family, Dion and Mark, have donated a tour to Soweto for 4 people. When things normalize, Mark, I know, is running a business where he takes people into Soweto. So we'd love to be able to take you. It's called Soweto Adventures, and would be enormously excited to give away a tour to Soweto for 4 people. That's an amazing prize. And if you do have something you'd like to donate to the winners of tonight, absolutely fantastic. We'd love to hear from you. Please, please put in the Q&A section. And Lee Noodleman says the Earl of Excelsil's true or false question has a third option. Never seen that. True, false, or what's the third option, Dina?
Sorry, what was the question?
So there's the Earl of Excelsil, I can't pronounce it, is a true or false question, but there's a third option. Does that make any sense?
No. I'm not sorry, you've quizzed me out. I don't know which question that was.
I don't know who the Earl of something was.
Take a guess if it's multiple choice.
Fantastic. We have 1 minute left in the New Zealand section, and as soon as that's over, we're going to give you the code to move on. So Dan, tell us one last thing. What was the highlight for you? If there was one thing to see in New Zealand or do in New Zealand, tell us what you should be doing or seeing.
I would say get yourself to Queenstown. Okay, this is what it looks like. It's absolutely, as you can tell, spectacular. Here, I can't even remember what we were doing. We were on a cable car. We were doing some adventure sports. You can see just absolutely amazing with the snow-capped peaks in the background. This was around September, October, which was a great time of year to go. It was like end of winter. Queenstown is just absolutely magnificent. I can't recommend it highly enough. There you can see Jazza, Jeremy. That's Dylan Burt. He's in London at the moment, and that's Gavin Sharp over there, whose wedding was actually meant to be 2 days ago, but it will be later in the year. So get yourself to New Zealand as soon as the travel ban is over.
Wow, amazing. And with that, we end the New Zealand section. Dina, people need to move on from New Zealand. What is the code?
I'm putting it in right now into the box. And the next code is Eritrea, E-R-I-T-R-E-A. And that is the next place that we are going to. Oh, no, we're not. Yes, we are.
We actually not.
Bring up Dan Brotman, who will be presenting this section. Is that correct?
So spell Eritrea for us, please.
E-R-I-T-R-E-A. Again, all lower caps, lowercase.
Lowercase.
How are you? Do you want me to bring up Mr. Brotman?
Yeah, please. And sorry, Stuart, I brought you up a little early. I thought we were bringing you up now, but we'll take Stuart away and bring up Dan Brotman. And people now have in front of them, people have questions about Eritrea. And Dina, someone is asking, how many countries are there?
So there are 9 countries this evening. But we're not going to reveal them all. You'll see as we go. It just becomes more interesting. So stay with us. Eritrea is number 2 of 9.
Fantastic. Dan, I'm going to unmute you. I don't think anyone else in our audience, I'm going to guess, I don't think anyone else in our audience would have been to Eritrea. So tell us about Eritrea.
Sure. Well, as I mentioned before, I like traveling to places that are unusual. So either countries that are relatively unknown or countries that carry a negative stigma. As I explained, I went to North Korea a year ago. And so I said, okay, now that I've ticked North Korea off my list, what about going to the North Korea of Africa? And that's why I decided to go to Eritrea. A few interesting things about Eritrea. It's a relatively new country. It gained independence in 1991. And it's a really interesting mix. I actually brought a few objects. First of all, I'm wearing a jersey that I bought there. This is the very famous Tagliero building, the capital city of Eritrea. In 2017, the entire city was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And there's a reason why, which you'll see in the questions. It's a very unique blend of cultures. It was colonized by countries from 3 continents. So I brought some objects. So as you know, coffee, if you can see this, I guess, oops, it doesn't really show up, but coffee originates from that region. And so on the streets of Eritrea, because it was colonized by the Italians, you see people drinking espresso on the streets, eating spaghetti, driving old Italian cars. So it's essentially like Italy in the 1940s in East Africa. Eritrea has also been in the news recently because in 2018, the Nobel Peace Prize was awarded for the peace agreement that was brokered between Eritrea and Ethiopia, also one of the questions. But also, Eritrea is very interesting because despite the fact that it's a country of only 3 million people, it has the 9th largest refugee population in the world. A huge part of Eritrea's population has fled and continues to flee because young people are conscripted into the military indefinitely. So you get conscripted at the age of 18, and you could be in the army up until your 40s. So many young people flee. They go on many of the people that go on those boats to across the Mediterranean to Europe come from Eritrea. And Israel has an asylum seeker population of 23,000 from Eritrea. They're actually the largest, as far as I know, African migrant group in Israel. Also, one of the reasons why very few people go to Eritrea is because it's such a secretive country and they make it really, really hard for people to get in. I've been to 68 countries and I have never struggled to get a visa like I struggled for Eritrea. I think I had to go to Pretoria 3 or 4 times to get the visa. And eventually I had to undergo a personal interview with the ambassador. And they only gave me the visa 2 days before my flight. They're notorious for only granting visas like right before your trip.
Dan, what sort of questions did the ambassador ask you?
I think he wanted to know why I wanted to go to Eritrea. I mean, again, very, very unusual country for tourists to want to visit. My group, we were, amongst the very, very few tourists in the country, which was incredible because we felt like we had so much of it to ourselves. There's hardly any internet in Eritrea. So for an entire week, very similar to North Korea, I had no idea what was happening in the outside world. There's a lot of censorship, and it's a country where everyone's under surveillance. So we also had to be careful about what we said.
And what language do they speak there?
So that's actually one of the questions. So I'm not going to say what language they speak, but I had some very interesting.
You have to help people with some questions. So that would be a nice one to give away.
Okay. So with languages, Ethiopians speak Amharic. Arabic is one of the widely spoken languages in Eritrea, but it's not the main language. So hopefully I've cut that list out, the options down a little bit. Something that I really enjoyed in Eritrea were my Jewish experiences.
Okay, we'll come to that in a second. Just to remind people that you have about 3 minutes left on Eritrea. And Dan, the food looks delicious, but it looks just like Ethiopian food, injera bread.
Yes, it was. What was incredible about the restaurants in Eritrea was you basically had these like dual menus. There was always sort of like an Ethiopian type food option and then Italian food. So I had some of the best like lasagna and spaghetti I've ever had in my life. Italians say that Eritrea has the best pasta and pizza in the world outside of Italy. And I had lots of gelato while I was there.
And if there was one thing to see in Eritrea, what would it be?
Well, besides for the, well, one of them would be the Fiat Tagliero building, which is like a perfectly preserved 1938. It's called the most beautiful petrol station in the world. Mussolini was very conservative, so all the crazy Italian architects in the 30s, they wouldn't build their architecture in Italy, they would build it in the colonies in Eritrea. Half of the capital city, here's a hint, half of the capital city's population was Italian in the 1930s. But I just wanted to mention that Jewish Eritrea is something I would not miss. Its Jewish population is very, very small right now. And that the Jews were not in the country at the time, they were overseas. And so I climbed the wall of the cemetery and I trespassed and I got into the Jewish cemetery and I got to see 150 Jewish graves, which I photographed. And then also because the Jews weren't in the country that day, I also got the caretaker to open the synagogue in the capital city, Asmara. And it was it's a perfectly preserved synagogue that I think last had a minyan in 2006.
Well, Dan, you said the Jews, so there's more than one?
The Jew in Eritrea, was in Italy at the time, but I had a WhatsApp call with him, and eventually we were able to get them.
The one Jew.
The Jew was able to arrange for the caretaker to open the synagogue for me, and I did a lot of photographing. I'm actually working right now with the South African Jewish Museum to take the book on the Jews of Eritrea, which was only done in hard copy, and we're actually going to put it online, and the South African Jewish Museum is going to host it on their website. So anyone who wants to learn about the Eritrean Jewish community can, because they're getting older. The majority of the community left in 1975.
Dan, that's amazing insight. And with that, we are finished our section on Eritrea. Can everyone please click next at the bottom of your page? And we would like to welcome, now I'm just going to unmute him, Stuart Diamond, who joins us from the Board of Deputies, the Jewish Board of Deputies out of Cape Town. And Stuart, you have been incredibly busy coordinating Jewish efforts in Cape Town over the COVID crisis. Please tell us what's happening.
Well, Howard, since the Hertzfear story obviously broke and the first case broke in the school, it really kick-started the community and the community's effort that the board has played an instrumental role in coordinating. And I think when I created the slogan with our strategy last year, standing up, opting in, there was no ways that I'd even realized that that strategy would come back in such a powerful way. And I think I'd like to play on the words of Siya Kolisi, that we are stronger together, both internally within our community and externally. And so taking in that standing up, opting in, and that Siya Kolisi phrase of standing together and stronger together, we've really had to put all our communal organizations really working side by side. And so what we've done as the board, with the help of CSI and their IMS system, is we've structured the community into various streams, from welfare to schools, to shuls, to installations. We've got a 6-panel medical team with various experts in the medical stream across the health sector, which has really been a strong guiding force in the process and how we've done our work in the Cape. The Cape is a strange community. It runs all the way from Cape Town, all the way to Plettenberg Bay. And since obviously the national office has shut, the country communities department, we've had to observe that end. So really, while we are looking after a community at now the epicenter, and I've seen this evening 2 further deaths in the Western Cape, and our numbers have increased over 1,500. We are now the leading case city. These are concerns. And so when we respond to the community, we have to respond on data and information. And so one of the highlights this year has been our legal intern, who's come on quite strongly and has been working incredibly hard at researching and unpacking government gazettes, because it's important that both the Western Cape community and the Jews of South Africa understand what are these rules, what are these restrictions, and what does it mean for them, not just in their personal life, in their business. So that's been an area that we've obviously had to do, and we focus quite hard on our website and our Facebook page, pushing out information that is relevant and updated so that we can obviously ensure that all Jews, not only their lives and their livelihoods, are protected, and we have their backs in that case. We've created
Stuart,
yes.
Can I just check? You mentioned your website and your Facebook page. Please tell us what these are. Dan will also put them in the chat as you do that. But the Cape Jewish Board of Deputies website and Facebook page, where do we look?
So if you go on the board and you type Cape SA Jewish Board of Deputies, on Facebook, you'll find our page, or capesajewishboard.org. They will pop up. I think also what I'd like to talk about is our volunteer line would be focused hard on in dealing with mental health issues and challenges, as well as logistics, people obviously needing food. The needing of food really has been an amazing task with both Schools and our volunteer line, ensuring that all our high-risk individuals are ensured that they get food. The biggest tragedy that we stopped this Pesach was ensuring that our country communities had food. And so through the help of connecting with retailers and individuals, we made sure that at the board, everybody could have a Pesach with Pesachika food and product. The JCS, our Jewish Community Services, are dealing internally with what we're now seeing a higher demand for financial assistance, both in food. Even at the United Herzliya Schools, we're seeing an extra ask for financial help. And I think this is the reality of the Jewish community moving forward. Maybe not so much in 2020, but 2021, with Jews really now being out of work, that will be another sector that we're going to have to focus hard on. I think really what we're trying to try to do is trying to make sure that the community feels supported, that they feel that they have a voice. And so we are constantly communicating, constantly putting out voice messages and engaging with the community. Our last one to the community obviously has come out this week, post the president's address. One of our jobs we have to continue doing is advocacy and lobbying. We have incredible relationships with the government in the city of Cape Town, as well at the provincial government, and we've been in constant communication with them on the changes. I think what is concerning us in the Cape are various issues around looting and security and how those could affect the community. But also what we are keeping an eye on, we are concerned that although the Cape now has become an epicenter, we are moving to stage 4. However, what I am concerned about is the possibility of going back to stage 5. So we need to keep an eye on that and the impact that that possibly could have on our community, Howard.
So Stuart, how can people help you?
I think the first thing that people could do is they could reach out to me personally on stuart@ctjc.co.za or WhatsApp or call.
Slowly give us that email address again, and Dan can stick it into the chat section.
So it's Stuart, STUART, @ctjc.co.za, or they could call me on or WhatsApp me on 082 387 7315. I need to make this statement incredibly clear. Every Jew in the Western Cape can pick up that phone number. They can drop me an email. We are there for everyone. This is an incredibly stressful time, not only just for adults in our community, for our kids as well. And what we're saying to people is you're not alone. And I think that's the message that needs to go out across the Jewish community, is that you're not alone, that somebody can help you, somebody can assist you, and that we are there for you. And I think that's the work of the Board of Deputies, not just in the Cape, but in its other regions in Gauteng and in Durban and KZN and all over. We really are committed to our Jewish community and ensuring that they're helped. I think I'd like to post one thing, just Howard, if I could just, obviously, sure. We've spoken about food and the need for food. We've raised something like 70,000 Rand for Jewish community services on the food side. One of the other areas that the board is obviously also focusing on, not only are we asking for volunteers to come forward, also are we asking community members to support the many initiatives, and you'll hear from Gina and her fantastic work that's being done in the Jewish community. We're also asking people that can donate. We've got a large foreign national community. And so the board have already done a first tranche run of food to the Rwandan, Congolese, and Burundian communities. These communities are also under severe pressure. So, you know, we can't just be internally focused only on ourselves. And I think as Jews, as people who are there in our Torah, we need to help others and be a support to other people in South Africa. And I think if we can do that, we'll definitely be stronger together.
Stuart, you make us really proud of the amazing work that you do. Thank you so much. Dan, you had a question for Stuart.
Yeah, just quickly, Stuart, did I get your details right there? The email address and phone number in the chat.
Dan, that's spot on. Thank you very much. And I just want to say to Howard and your entire team at the SA Jewish Report, putting out news is important. The information that you put out is important. You know, when I spoke about research, mitigating and combating fake news is critically important today. We've seen that all this fake news that gets put out via social media, the panic, the nervousness, and the fear that it creates. And I think one of the jobs of the press today is to put out sound information, to distribute that. And I think all these chats that you're having and these information webinars are really a great assistance to the community. So I would strongly support, you know, people getting behind your campaign and donating to your organization.
Stuart, thank you so much for coming on, and please keep up the good work. You make us so proud of our community. Thank you to everyone in Cape Town for everything that you're doing.
And thanks for including us. Cheers.
Cool. And I just want to tell you as well, I want to thank Larry Hodis, who has donated 3 500 Rand vouchers, one for the Dark Kitchen, one for Arbor Cafe, and one for Voodoo Lily, which people will be able to go to or at least use when restaurants are doing delivery. So a huge thank you to Larry Hodis for that. And also to Sheki Flexer from Shalom from Africa. And she is going to donate to a family matching kippot and masks that you can wear as a Shabbos pack for a family. Are going to win that tonight. So Sheki and all the team from Shalom from Africa, so proud of the amazing work that you're doing, and I'm sure you're putting all of your seamstresses to work to make amazing masks for all of us. So if you would like to donate something to some of the winners tonight, there's the Q&A button at the bottom of the page. We've had some amazing prizes. The Hershevitz and Ellerins have donated a tour of Soweto for 4 people. Clayton Donnelly has donated some career coaching, which is amazing. And we have from Jeremy Danhauser as well. He's giving us an A4 28-page book so you can document from travels. And David Zadel has given us 10 copies of his book to give away. So that's absolutely, absolutely fantastic. So now, Dina, people have been unable to move on because they need a secret code at the bottom of their page.
Wow. Well, it's a wonderful thing then that I have another code. And
so this will be the code that you will require in order to move on. And I'm just looking because it's giving me some issues that some of the questions are required questions on this to move off Eritrea. So not everyone has answered that.
Right, sorry. So if you're getting a block and they're required, then and if you don't have time, guys, just click and type a letter in just to get to the next page, because it is giving in issues. I just saw that now. So that just make sure that you've answered every single question on Eritrea. I think there was enough time, but even if you don't have enough time, guys, the ones that haven't been answered that say required, just quickly click something or put a letter in, and you have to press next, because that's the whole point, that you got to keep going, you got to keep the momentum. So you have to press next, but you have to actually complete the question. So if you don't know the answer, take a guess, click a multiple choice, add a letter in, add any name in, and then just carry on. So that should let you get through.
So that will just take people a minute to put in any random answer in any of that. I know at some point in time we did have some compulsory questions on the Israel section as well. So Dina, during our next section, if I can ask you to double check that there are no compulsory questions in the Israel section, but just randomly put in an answer for anything to be able to click through to the next. And the code then?
For the next section.
Well, so if you press next, it would have said welcome, Stuart. And to get through to the next section,
yeah, people also would have had more time with Eritrea because of Stuart being online, so they should have had more time to answer those questions.
But I'm sure they were actually listening to Stuart.
Absolutely. So if you're not into multitasking completely, then just try and click through, and I will make sure that the rest of the quiz has those questions unchecked, that you can just carry on. Would you like me to give the code word now? Please. All right, guys, the next code word is actually the next country that we are going to, and it is Lithuania, all lowercase. I've just put it into the chat, Lithuania. Lithuania. For those who are not sure, Lithuania, all lowercase. Lithuania.
And for our Lithuanian section, as people start filling it out, and it's 9:02, so you've got 7 minutes to deal with the Lithuanian section, and we have promoted onto the panel and are unmuting Hugh Reichlin. Hugh, just before we started, you were telling us about that amazingly ridiculous but very familiar kippah that you're wearing on your head.
Absolutely, Howard. You said that I should try and introduce some sort of dress of Lithuania. So I thought, what could be better than wearing a traditional Lithuanian yarmulke? And I'm sure that many of the people that are participating in tonight's show remember some of our forebears in the shuls in South Africa wearing this traditional yarmulke. Many of the shamosim used to wear them.
So we would know that from our shul, the shamus had this little thing unique to Lithuania. You don't get that from anywhere else.
Correct. This is where you get them. It's a yarmulke. And in fact, I was just looking up on the word yarmulke, and yarmulke actually comes from the Slavic, which means to have yira for the malka, which means to have awe and fear for the king, which is Hashem, which is really such a beautiful idea. I never understood that that was where the word yarmulke came from.
So tell me as well, the word kitka, is that a Lithuanian word? Everyone else uses the word challah, but traditionally South Africans have used the word kitka. Is that Lithuanian?
I'm not actually sure what the derivation is. I've heard the question before, but I'm not sure exactly where it comes from. But I would imagine that it does have a link to Lithuania, because it was it was a word used typically in South Africa. Nobody else in the world, as you know, uses it. They all talk about it as being challah.
So you've in fact taken many tours to Lithuania, heritage tours. You've been there many, many times. You must have seen a lot of changes over the years, because you've been doing this for what, about 20 years already?
Yes, I first went to Lithuania in 97, so it's about 23 years since I went there first. And yes, I have seen tremendous change. I think that the technological development, the building up of particularly Vilna and Kovna, it's the architecture is beautiful, and there's been a tremendous amount of renovation. You know, for many years, Lithuania was neglected when it was under Russian rule, and when they got the independence in the early 1990s from Russia, and the Lithuanians once again controlled their own country, so obviously they just started upgrading the entire country.
So in fact, Dina, you went not so long ago, you went on a heritage tour yourself. You went to Lithuania with a few of the girls.
I did indeed. I went with Cyril Cohen and Michelle Rosen, two of my friends. We were inspired after our Poland trip, and we wanted to get back to our roots. So we went to Latvia and Lithuania. We rented a car. We got a tour guide, drove in our little RAV4 throughout the entire sort of outbacks, not quite, of the shtetls. And it was just a phenomenal, phenomenal tour. In fact, Hugh and I were talking briefly about it, and the fact that we actually can go back to our home where our grandparents came from, and to actually see what those shtetls were like was just such a phenomenal trip for me, because I had always heard about like different towns, specifically with my family, Krakanova, where the C family comes from. But it had always been so remote and so distant. So to actually get to that town and literally it's stuck in a time warp. It's still like whatever that town was described as in my great uncle Sidney's book. He had a book written about the town and where he grew up. It was literally like being there, and it was a phenomenal, phenomenal experience. But yeah, it's a very quiet country, very sparse. There's not mass sort of population. And it was just a great trip to actually see it for yourself, to go back to the old country.
So we have about 4 or 5 minutes left for people to complete the section on Lithuania. Hugh, the thing that amazed me most of all about Lithuania was the fact that all the food that I thought was Jewish food was in fact Lithuanian food. And that you could walk into a supermarket and buy gefilte fish, or chopped herring, or Danish herring, or herring under the blanket, which was something that I saw in Lithuania for the first time. So was it because the Jewish community was so dominant in their era in Lithuania, or did they just adopt the food of the locals in that part of the world?
Howard, I haven't researched the question, but just from my experience, I would say that we had a profound effect on the Lithuanian community. And I've no doubt that gefilte fish and chopped herring and chopped liver were Jewish foods that the Lithuanians picked up from us. I must tell you.
Yeah, I also thought that when I was there, because when you go into the supermarkets, you actually see herring. So you actually, again, and I was even thinking about trying to bring it back, didn't do that though. But also it's a very much a function of, I think, what the environment was and what could be afforded. So fish was easy to get, it was cheap to get. So I think it was also very much a sort of a question of the geography.
So Dina, I think Dina's correct. The reason that people ate the herring was because it was a cheap fish. It was bought, it was obviously from the Baltics, it was from the sea, you know, close to Lithuania. Because it was a cheap fish, the Jews started using it. What I was really referring to was the way it was prepared. So that would be typically, the gefilte fish would be something that the Jews created of their own, but they were using, as you said, the indigenous foods of the country.
So just a question that's come in from Charmaine. She says, where do I find the questions? Well, Charmaine, you should have had a Google form that you should have been using for the last hour or so. And each one requires a code to get onto the next section.
I'm going to retype the code as we go.
Dina will put in all the codes, but you've got a lot of catching up to do because this is an absolute race. We've got about 2 minutes left in our Lithuanian section. Dina's desperately trying to see as well if she can pull up the leaderboard for us so we can actually see how the various teams are doing. And we've got hundreds of teams busy participating tonight to try get to the end of the race in time. So Hugh, we speak about things like Kovna, we speak about things like Vilna, but these names have changed a little. So the names that our grandparents told us about, what is Kovna today?
Well, Kovna today is Kaunas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very...
Vilna, what is Vilna today?
Well, that's one of the questions that I've asked on the form. So should I...
Okay, you're not going to give us a clue.
Give a clue. Be kind, Hugh, be kind.
It's very similar to Vilna. It's very similar to Vilna.
Okay, so Hugh, if people were to go to Lithuania today, it's really about heritage, isn't it? You need to see what's happening in Vilnius, the capital, and you need to also be able to go to the little shtetls that your family came through. Is it easy to arrange or hard to arrange?
I think it's fairly easy to arrange, but you just have to know who to speak to. You know, I've done Lithuania in 2 different ways. I've done it on a Jewish heritage tour, and I've done it with a friend where we just moved around the country on our own. And over the last few years, I've been taking Jewish heritage tours where basically you just wake up in the morning and everything is taken care of for you, which I think is a far preferable way to travel. Where all the kosher food is taken care of. You have breakfast in the hotel. We have lunch packs, which are kosher and packed in the hotel. And then we get back in the evening to a beautiful meal. For those people for whom a minyan is important, and to be able to speak on the bus and to share experiences and to have a lecturer on the bus, which is the role that I play, being a kind of a madrich, a leader of the group, I think it's a far more enriching experience to be in a group, but it's certainly doable for individuals. And I can certainly assist people by linking them with local contacts in the country to do a bespoke tour just for them or a group of people or their family.
Fantastic, Hugh. Thank you so much for that section on Vilna. I just want to tell you that Edna Frankel has kindly decided to donate to us her program, Teach Any Child or Adult to Read, written in fact by her mother. Edna, thank you so much for that donation. We really, really appreciate with that as well. And with that, pens down on Lithuania. As far as you've gotten, that's as far as you're going to get. And Dina, how do we move on from there?
So I just have to tell you that in terms of the scores, I think people should be able to see how many they got right, how many they got wrong. So it's not going to let us consolidate until the end, unfortunately. So people might have to, maybe we should get them to start writing in and letting us know how many they're getting right in each section, just to give us a view.
Cool. So at the end of the Lithuanian section, what happens? Is there a next button? Is there a code?
So yes, there is a next button. So everyone has to get down to the bottom of the screen. Please press next. And then we are going to be going to one of our other guests, to Cindy Cree. So I think we need to bring Cindy up. So thank you so much. Hugh, are you still with us?
I'm still with you.
Cool, but Hugh, we are going to move you back into the audience where hopefully you will continue answering all these questions. And it's fantastic to bring from the Union of Jewish Women, Cindy Cree. Nice to have you with us. Let's unmute you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hi, Cindy. The Union of Jewish Women has been going for a very long time in South Africa. How old is the organization?
We are 89 years old.
That is
Don't look
remarkable.
a day over 25.
Thank God.
Cindy, you're doing unbelievable work on behalf of the community in the townships and in our own community. Tell us about your response to COVID.
So we, although our flagship project is Kosher Mobile Meals, we've been very busy in the outreach communities. As Stuart said, it's really important that we give back to the rest of the South African community. We are South Africans, so it's within us. So we've been providing alcohol sanitizer to different project sites, including Chris Harney, Baragwanath, Charlotte Makeke, as well as other projects. We've given toys and educational packs out in the community so that the children waiting for school to start actually have something to do that's educational. We've also donated food parcels to different creches, sponsored lockers at Charlotte Makeke Hospital for the COVID section. We've had a donor that came forward and sponsored all our sewing school students some money that they could go and buy the essentials that they needed, as well as packing and delivering food parcels in Katlehong, in Alex, and those kind of areas that really are impoverished.
So Cindy, in fact, Ariane Hennick told me about your sewing school that you have, and I imagine that as we move to phase 4 now in the lockdown period, you'll be able to start up maybe some of that sewing school and convert it into a mask production facility.
Absolutely. So we will probably look at ways that we can encourage still social distancing. So we would probably have to have less students, but get them to make masks for either people to purchase or for us to be able to donate to our other project sites that need them.
Fantastic. So how can people who are watching us tonight, how can people help you?
So we are planning other projects and events and everything coming on. So one of the things that people can do to help is that they can donate educational packs that consist of pens, paper, crayons, activities that kids can do and all different age groups, and they can be delivered. I'll put the address in soon, as well as obviously monetary donations. That always goes a long way. You'll get your 18A certificate. And if you would like to donate your time, please feel free to contact the office. We always need volunteers to always assist with packing or delivering or any kind of thing like that.
Fantastic. So, so very importantly, people have a lot of time on their hands at the moment, and you can actually turn their spare time into something really, really productive. So Cindy,
Absolutely.
if I can ask you to put all of your details into the chat session over there.
With pleasure.
And we would love people who are watching us to either donate books, crayons, pens, pencils, money, or their time. That would be absolutely amazing. Fantastic, Cindy. Thank you so much.
Howard. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you for everything that you do. It really is amazing. Every bit amazing.
Thank you.
Dan, I saw there was a donation coming in, and tell us what that is. I saw you saying thanks to someone.
There was a message from Ryan Davis. Wow. So Ryan Davis says, Limud South Africa would love to invite this entire global community to our online e-Limud on Sunday the 17th of May. Join us for an incredible, thought-provoking, connecting, inspiring afternoon of taking one step further on your Jewish journey. We'd also like to sponsor an advert in the next edition of South Africa Jewish Report and 10 free tickets for e-Limud to the audience. And I can actually give a little bit of insight into that event. It's from 2 till 6 in the afternoon, so it's going to be 4 hours. You can obviously come in and out as you please, and there's going to be, I think as far as I know, 10 different sessions running concurrently. So it's going to be a virtual Limud experience. What we can do, Davis, I don't know if we have time, Howie, but I'll take your lead on this. If we do have time and Davis is keen, he can come onto the panel for a minute to talk.
Not tonight, unfortunately, but thank you so much for the donation. Really, really appreciate it. That's amazing. And I see Rabbi Nathan Lopez-Condoza is going to be on, as well as Paula Sleer, Johnny Steinberg. So a great panel. Thank you for that donation. And also a huge thank you to Sassy Innovations, who've donated 3 online consultations for social media as prizes for tonight as well. So a huge thank you to all of those people. And now, in order to move on, Dina Diamond, there's a code that people need at the bottom of their form to move on to the next section.
Indeed, there are. I'm just trying to see if I can get, so what it's doing, it's only really letting you tally up once everyone actually completes the form. It will give you the score, but it will actually unfortunately have to be only at the end, which will keep us all baited and on the edges of our seat trying to answer all these questions. So just stay with us. But the next code to get to is actually the next country, which we are going to. I would say country, but it's actually a continent. And it is ANT. So that is the next code. I'm going to put it into the chat over here. And the next code is ANT, taking us to Antarctica. And Ariella Cooper will be taking us through that. So we'll bring her up onto the panel. And this is, guys, this is a unique opportunity, I think. I mean, we are hearing about countries that no one goes to. Again, as Dan mentioned, no one goes to Eritrea. Certainly, I haven't heard of that many people going to Antarctica, and I think it's quite the chill, apparently.
So to get into the next section, it was lowercase ANT.
Lowercase ANT. And we've got Ariella and Dick who's with us.
And Dick.
So nice to see you both.
Dick, great to have you on board. We saw Ariella earlier, but we know Ariella goes absolutely nowhere without you. So great to have you both on board.
Thanks very much, Howard.
Great, guys. The code ANT, lowercase ANT, ant.
Howie, I realized I needed my brains with me for this one. So you're getting the value add. You're getting the value add.
So tell me, how do you get to Antarctica? I believe you can either go by boat or you can fly. How did you guys go?
So I have to say that I might sell tankers and ships for a living, but you're not going to find a yid on a ship. Let me just put it, not for a long distance. It's not going to happen. So my beautiful husband had been dying to go to Antarctica for several years, and he did a lot of research, and he found out that there is one company that leaves South Africa. In fact, they're the only second company in the world that does it. And you actually fly via Gulfstream, ex-Cape Town, and in 5.5 hours, you actually land in Antarctica. So that is definitely a trip of a lifetime. I don't think there are any words that could even begin to do justice to this trip. And what I have to tell you is the funniest part of the entire thing was the shopping expedition before we even got there. So,
I was actually looking at your photos, which people will see in the form, which are spectacular. I don't know, where do you even shop for stuff like that?
Okay, so that is the best part of it. And just now I'm actually going to share some pictures with you, but that we found while we were waiting, now that we'll show you some cool pictures. But the bottom line is there's a company called Drifters. It's a bit like Cape Union Mart, but on steroids. And you're sent there, and there is a dedicated guy by the name of Mario who basically takes you under his wing. And there, my husband and I arrived with like 5 kit bags of all, you know, ski stuff that we've used for Europe before. And we said, well, you know, what can we use of this that we don't need to replicate? I mean, also I'm going, why do you want to spend more money if you don't have to? And the guy just looks at everything and he bursts out laughing and he says to Dick, okay, that's very nice for your summer holiday. Now let's get down to business.
Oh, I love it.
How cold was it?
And he goes, so let me just explain to you. You will be wearing 3 levels of pants at any given time on your legs. You will be wearing a minimum of 4 levels on your body. And you will be wearing 3 levels on your hands. And that's not counting the additional 3.5 hours once you've landed on the Antarctica to get to the South Pole in a Basler flight. Bremer or Basler? In a Basler, to get to the South Pole, because that's another 3.5 hours to get there. And once you're there, we are going to be giving you like this imagine this like big duvet kind of onesie, plus
down.
But it's a down duvet. And then they give you these shoes that honestly you could survive the gulag for at least 4 years in. And then you got to put these mittens over and above your 3 gloves. And then you've got, I mean, I think the pictures that some of you saw, if you scroll down the pictures, you'll see. But that was the most entertaining spot, especially when you're having hot flushes with menopause. It's great. You just put these things on, you think you're going to die. And when you actually get to Antarctica, you wish you had more. All I can tell you is that...
How cold? Tell us how cold it was.
So a couple of the questions actually address that. But obviously, we also have to help because it is Motzei Shabbos and we want to be nice on this one. But to give you a guide, you're actually looking at A good day is like minus 12.3 and a not so good day is minus 82 degrees Celsius.
Right, so you were there in winter or summer? Just tell everyone.
So we went in summer, and which was your December time, and we actually were very lucky, because what we found out was when we landed. Now when that Gulf Stream lands, it cannot be. We're not talking about like a runway. You don't exactly have like an airport waiting for you. You're landing on flattened ice, and that Gulf has to turn around within 45 minutes because it can't last. Only the Basler, which is actually a 1945 airplane that's basically just keeps getting rebuilt, because worldwide they've never managed to actually improve on the design of that aircraft for polar regions. Now that can stay on the ground, but the Gulf Stream got to turn around in 45 minutes. And just before we had got there had been a blizzard that had lasted just short of 2 weeks. And that had hit minus 45 degrees Celsius at the South Pole. So this is just to help you conceptualize.
That's summer.
And that's summer, exactly. So we're talking about extreme temperatures. A lot of people always ask us, like what animals exist there? Like, one of the questions is there about your polar bear, so I'm not going to be answering that one, but pretty much a rock is one of your closest friends. So with the numbers we were given of people that basically occupy the South Pole, your summer months is when you get people, and it's a maximum of something like 1,500 people on the entire Antarctica continent, as Dina accurately said. But during winter months, only psychotic engineers and science people who are basically at polar stations of the nation states occupied, and they say anywhere between 350 to maximum 500. So you better like your own company, you better enjoy solitary confinement. Lockdown will prepare you phenomenally for Antarctica. But when you walk from your little pod to like the loo, which will basically be a frozen little waterfall, you are going to be donning every single thing, because you just don't brave the elements. You can't.
And what do you do?
Ariella, we've got one minute left, just to tell people completing the Antarctica section that we have 1 minute left. And also a huge thank you to Daniela Scher, who has donated a voucher for sports massage as soon as things get back to normal. So a huge thank you to Daniela Scher for the sports massage, which we will award tonight to one of the people this evening. And thank you. That's an amazing prize as well. So sorry, Dina, we've got like less than a minute, but you had a question for Ariella.
Yes, I just want to know how many days you were there for, and what do you do each day?
So we were there for 9 days, and every single day you do a different ice activity. In fact, when you finally hit a little bit of rock, which is a minimal percentage of the entire continent, there is 100 kilometers of what they call ice waves before it ever hits the sea. And those ice waves are basically as the ice shelves push the ice further and further almost into a bay, creating like whipped cream. We wanted to share some pictures, but I'm struggling on how to share images, so sorry about that. And we actually went on hikes. It was a 6-hour hike to get there, where you actually walk under these ice waves. And these are multi-million-year-old ice caves that have naturally formed. And it is ultraviolet blue, which is a natural color. And you've never seen anything so fascinating.
So Dina, basically one day we flew to the Penguins. You must understand that it's as big as a continent, right? So from our base camp, it's a 2.5-hour flight to go to the Penguins. And from our base camp, it's like I think it's 7-hour flight to the actual South Pole. So the one day we did a flight to the South Pole and we stayed there overnight and we came back. The other day, as I said, we did the Penguins. And as Ariella said, we did a lot of hikes and mountain climbing and ice climbing. And there are a lot of ice activities. There was not a single day that we didn't have an unbelievable experience. And the group that we were with was diverse. There were about 12 people. And every activity comes with team leaders and professionals that actually help us, from rock climbers to
free jumpers. They're the best in the world. And what Dick said is accurate. There, by the way, are only 12 people on your group. That's it. There's no one else. We had China, we had Australia, we had Canada. It was absolutely fascinating. And they're the best of the best, from free jumpers, ice hikers that are your tour guides every day, and an entire pack of doctors as backup. But thank God we didn't need that.
And
a private chef.
There are very few people going. So you'll find that there's more people that reach the Everest than actually go to the South Pole.
Amazing. Dick, Ariella, thank you very much. Dick, you will notice I'm wearing my Amsterdam
I
shirt.
love you, brother. I love you.
I hope you're feeling at home. Guys, thank you so much for your section and thank you for joining us. I'm sure you've made some people enormously excited about the opportunity when travel begins again to go to Antarctica, one of the true amazing places in the world, hard to get to. So guys, thank you so much. And that means it's in fact pens down for the Antarctica section. And in fact, I want to put down that someone in fact has just sent us something that says, I spent 2 months in Antarctica, getting there on the SAA Gullis, part of the MSc, a part of his MSc in oceanography. And that's from Marshmallow. Marshmallow, I don't actually know what your name is, but I'm sure you probably know David Frank, a member of our community who actually ran the Sinai base in Antarctica. And he was there, I think, for a full year, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe even more. So Marshmallow, tell us exactly who you are. We'd love to hear from you. And our next section, Dina, people need to move on, because I understand that the entire Diamond clan, although I can't see your husband, he's probably hiding away, the entire Diamond clan were recently in Japan. So how do we get, what is the secret code to get us from Antarctica to Japan?
All right, so I'm going to type it in just in case people don't know how to get from Antarctica to Japan, and it's simply by writing in the word Japan in all lowercase. So that's
fantastic.
How you got Japan, Japan.
Fantastic. So we've got about 7 minutes, and hopefully Andrew will come join us. Andrew, as we know, is very shy, but we have
shy. I'm trying to convince him. Come on, Andrew. You've been asked for. You have to come in.
Jackson is very determined to bring his father in. Well, all the diamonds, lovely to have you here. You've done the Japanese section. And guys, tell us what your highlight of Japan was. You were there over December.
Let's see, Jackson Diamond, can you tell us what your highlight of Japan was? Talk about.
I have 2 highlights of Japan. One is a ninja museum and the other was the snow.
Oh, wow, because Japan in December is really, really cold, isn't it?
It is very, very cold, and that's what we discovered. So it was also Andrew's birthday, so he wanted to go somewhere that he's been dying to go forever, and he's been dying to go to Japan. So that is why we chose December. But the cherry blossom season is actually in May. But if we'd gone this year, we wouldn't have gone. So it actually worked out quite well.
Sienna, what was your highlight?
I liked when we went snowboarding.
Oh,
wow. And did you guys see the snow monkeys?
Well, we didn't get to see the snow monkeys. There actually wasn't even enough snow. We had to go up high to actually try and even get some snow, and we couldn't go skiing because there wasn't enough snow. But yeah, we did miss the monkeys. But Mackenzie, what did you like? The snow. For some reason, my kids love the snow. They've never seen snow before. So for them, that was very exciting.
Andrew, did you get to go to any of the whiskey distilleries? Because, of course, Japanese whiskey has become world famous. So almost as famous, if not more so, than Scottish whiskey.
We didn't go to the whiskey, but we went to a sake distillery and showed us the traditional way that they made it a few hundred years ago, and also the modern way that they make it. And that was it was very interesting.
So I'm sure you guys didn't do it because Dina never listens to me. But my highlight of Japan was in fact going go-kart racing through the streets of Tokyo on a go-kart dressed as Super Mario, in costume, driving, zipping on the highway, across the bridges, across Shibuya, Shinjuku, all dressed as a Super Mario character. Did you guys do that at all?
So let me tell you, we would have loved to have done that. In fact, I was dying to do that. And you do need your onesie because people go in their onesies. They Pooh Bear onesies, and they're like every character from Mario imaginable. And especially because it was winter, it was cold. It was very cold. Not New York cold, but quite cold. So you need your gloves. It's not also Antarctic cold, but you need gloves, you need a proper jacket, you need to keep warm. So we saw people in their go-karts, which looked amazing, especially going past Shibuya. But funny enough, they don't let 10, 11 and 8-year-olds drive go-karts on the streets of Japan. It's a crazy thing.
Hard to believe. Did you guys go to the Robot Cafe in Tokyo?
So that we also didn't, because we heard it wasn't that kid appropriate, but it was otherwise. We've heard that is one of the highlights. But where we did,
No, very kid appropriate, very kid appropriate. The most bizarre show you've ever seen in your entire life, a mixture of a rave and animatronics, and it's just too bizarre. But that's Japan. Everything about Japan is bizarre. Tell us about the sushi.
so the sushi obviously is very Japanese, and what we discovered, well, Andrew particularly, and I think Mackenzie really liked the original form of Japanese sushi. I think myself and Sienna definitely, we prefer, we prefer the Western version of sushi, because otherwise it's very, very fishy. It's very much sashimi. If you're not getting your hand rolls, you're not getting sort of what we used to in, I think, South Africa. But no, Andrew is having sushi for breakfast. You can go into any supermarket there. And in fact, we would actually suggest this. Any supermarket is actually the best way to get your fresh sushi. So you wake up in the morning. We stayed at an Airbnb, so we were lucky enough. We had a house in an actual area which was very near Shibuya. So Shibuya is the main area. It's also where Shibuya Crossing is, where it's actually one of our questions. So we'll give you a clue of how many people cross the road at peak sort of hour. Sienna, do you want to give a clue as to how many people cross the road? Over, it's more than?
A lot. That's a lot.
A lot. It's a lot.
I know.
It's
Do you
over
know?
1,000.
It's something million, right?
No, at the same time. It's only a few
yeah.
thousand. And Mackenzie, what was your favorite part of Shibuya Crossing? Was it potentially the Starbucks?
Yeah, the Starbucks.
The Starbucks. So one of the things you do in Japan when you go to Shibuya Crossing is you go to the second floor of Starbucks and you order yourself a coffee and you watch people cross the road. I can see
in
Dan.
fact, what you do is you put your camera on in fact, the mode that allows you to tell me again, what's the mode called?
Time lapse.
Time lapse. And you watch these tens of thousands of people crossing Shibuya Crossing from every direction. So let's ask.
The most amazing thing about that crossing is that the second the robot goes from green to red, there is not one person that is on the road. They're all standing on the pavement in line waiting to cross. It is incredible. The little man starts to flash green. It's got 30 seconds or whatever. And once it turns red, it's done. There's nobody trying to cross the road or run across or do anything whatsoever.
When we decided that wouldn't quite be the protocol in Joburg. If that was the case, there'd be taxis stuck in the middle, there'd be people in the middle of the road. There, the place is spotless. There is not a piece of paper on the ground. People are completely law-abiding. The subways are absolutely spotless. In fact, at 12 o'clock at night, when we arrived in Japan, in Tokyo, the subway was full, absolutely full. So it is another city that just never sleeps, never sleeps.
So Mackenzie, tell me, did you go bath in an onsen?
Yes, so we went to an onsen, and the only thing, tell us why not. They were a little bit freaked out. So we went to an onsen specially, and it was after we went to the bamboo forest, which is another highlight. I'm just saying that I'm potentially giving a clue away to one of our questions. We got to the onsen, and women and men actually completely bathed separately. So onsen is the hot springs for people who don't know. And another clue, and you go and you bathe in the hot water, which is obviously from the ground, the thermal waters, but you go and you actually have to clean yourself. You have to scrub yourself completely before you go in, and then the women and the men are separate and they go in completely naked. So, South Africans were very conservative, and my children thought that they could go in their swimming costumes and be fine with it. So we got there after trekking and after taking trains and buses, and decided it wasn't for us. But you can book yourself.
You guys were also in Kyoto. You mentioned you were in Kyoto. You went to the bamboo forest. You also went to go see the Torii gates at the Fuji Inari temple that go up the mountain. Tell us about that.
How many, Jackson? Tell us.
10,000.
Okay, so that Fushimi Inari, which are those Torii gates, which lead you, obviously, that's a very spiritual issue in Japan, and those Torii gates are everywhere. And we saw real monkeys, so not snow monkeys, but we did see other monkeys running around. And Kyoto is an amazing town. So it's a lot quieter, a lot more subdued than Tokyo, but very much the cultural heartland of Japan. It never got destroyed in the war, and it has all these temples. It's got the palace. It's really just a spectacular place.
So we're going to ask people to put down their pens in 1 minute. So in that 1 minute, give us one or two of the other highlights. Did you get to Hiroshima at all? Did you get into the mountains, to Koyasan, to the Buddhist temples? Give us a highlight if you were to give a recommendation about Japan. Mine is to stand in line for 4.5 hours outside Sushi Dai or Sushi Daiwan to try get sushi made by one of the great grandmasters of the sushi world. Give us a highlight in the last 30 seconds.
We went to a really fantastic outdoor art museum, which has Picasso. Which other great artist does it have there? It's got really, really amazing artists. It's absolutely massive. They've also got a mini onsen there where you can put your feet into the thermal spring that they have running there. And they've got these little towels that you buy from a vending machine for a few yen. And you put your money in and the little towel comes out. You go and sit in the little hot spring there, roll up your pants, take off your shoes and socks, obviously, and put your feet in the middle of winter. And then afterwards you dry them off and you carry on. And they've got lanterns that they give you when it gets dark, and you give them back when you leave. It's a kind of Norval Museum plus Dylan Lewis's sculpture times 15. That's sort of the size and the scale and financially what's involved there. So it's really incredible.
So with that, I want to thank Mackenzie, I want to thank Sienna, I want to thank Jackson, Andrew, and Dina. Thank you for your section on Japan. And with that, it is pens down on the Japanese section. Thank you all those people who participated. And Dina, what happens now?
So now you have to go down to the bottom of your screen and you have to enter the next code, which is taking us to the next place. But actually, so when you press next, you should be getting up a sign that says Benji Schulman. And
So
Benji
let us-
will now be joining us. He is from South African Friends of Israel, and he should be joining us up on the panel. Dan, are you going to bring him up for us?
I've just brought him up, and so Benji should be joining us any second.
All right, so as soon as people put next, but just so you know, guys, Japan is an unbelievable country. We would totally recommend it. The whole family loved it. Everyone loved different aspects, from the ninjas to the food, to the temples, to the toilets. We hadn't talked about the toilets, which were the best part of Japan, actually. The singing toilets, the warm toilet seats. You may need a class before you go.
There's the toilets.
There's the Japanese toilets. Okay, Dina, I'm muting you because we have Benji Schulman with us. I'm unmuting Benji. Please turn on your camera, Benji. We'd love to see you. Benji, I'm afraid we can't see you yet.
Benji, are you there?
Either that or Benji's in a very dark room.
Howie, it says I'm there. Can you not see me?
We can't. We can hear you, but we can't see you.
You guys, can you hear me? Can you see me?
I'm afraid your
I suppose a good start,
internet
but,
connection isn't great. We can't see you. Maybe you'll flash on. Ah, there you are, Benji. Welcome. Nice to have you here. Tell us about the South African Friends of Israel. What are you doing during this COVID period?
So Howie, people may not know the South African Friends of Israel. It's basically like our network of pro-Israel groups around the country that are not necessarily from the Jewish community, often Christian, but not only. And it's important just to say what it's about, because this network is always standing up for the Jewish community. They come to our protests, they debate in the media, all of these kind of things, and they're very effective, even though it's hard to be pro-Israel.
I'm sorry.
You might have seen some time ago there was a video by Cyril Ramaphosa talking about how you like Israeli technology and it's something we should be following. And it was because we believed in that. A mission actually stood up and asked him a question in a packed audience and live on television, and that's how we got this. So the reason I'm mentioning it is because those communities also learn.
Benji.
Hi.
Sorry, I'm afraid your internet connection is so poor we can't hear a word that you're actually saying. I don't know if other people in your home are busy watching Netflix or YouTube or something, but I'm afraid we can't even hear your voice at this point in time. So we'll give it one last shot. but I'm afraid you have to ask anyone else in your home who's.
But I think Benji, leave your camera off. Turn your camera off and give it a shot.
I think we've lost Benji, unfortunately. So Dan, can you take
Okay,
Benji back?
I'll just do it. Sometimes you just get
Benji,
unlucky in my house. But
still not
I'm afraid we can't hear you. Sorry, Benji. I'm afraid we'll have to do this another.
All right, Howie. Thank you. I apologize. I'm not sure what's going on my side. It was fine until now.
No. Dan, could you take Benji into the audience? And Dina, what is our code to get onto the next country, please?
Sorry. So you asked me what we did.
Okay, Dina, how do we get onto the next country?
Okay, the next country code is Uganda. I'm going to type it in all lowercase. UGANDA.
And who's up? Is this Jazza?
Sorry, so Uganda is Jazza, indeed. Clearly, Dan, you've been traveling with all these people. Where did you go with the...
I've been with Jazza to the UK. I mean, he lives there, but we've been to Wales together. I've been with Jazza to New Zealand during the Rugby World Cup and England in the Rugby World Cup 5 years ago. Jazza's been
Dan,
everywhere, though.
I don't know what Jazza's name is that he's logged in on.
I've promoted him to the panel, Jeremy Bortz.
Okay. Okay.
Jeremy Bortz, aka Jazza. Howard, really?
Of course.
Of course.
There we go. There he is.
So he's in London, upside down, sideways.
On a boat.
Keep going. Keep going.
How's that
Jazza,
going?
you've got to auto-rotate.
Yourself. Here we go.
Sorry about that.
Where did you say you are?
Murphy's Law. It was working perfectly until it was my turn to speak.
Of course, it was Murphy's.
So Jazza, when were you in Uganda? And tell us about your trip.
Howie, it was fantastic. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so Catherine, my wife, and I, we did an amazing trip. We traveled from Ethiopia to South Africa over 9 months on public transport. And Uganda was one of our favorite countries. We were there for 5 weeks throughout January 2018. It was just fantastic.
So fantastic. And so what would you recommend? Did you go see the gorillas when you were there? What else would you recommend?
We didn't see the gorillas in Uganda. We actually saw them in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. We did see their close cousins, the chimps, in the Kibale forest, which was one of the most amazing experiences. You spend an entire day with the chimps. You get to just kind of watch them, see them, in their natural habitat, and see how similar they are to us in so many respects. So that was an amazing day. There's lots of fantastic hiking. One of the questions actually, we climbed Mount Sabinyo, which is one of the peaks of the Virunga Mountains, which border Uganda, the DRC, and Rwanda. And when you get to the top of Mount Sabinyo, you're actually standing where the three countries meet, which is just a fantastic experience. So there's lots of amazing hiking. The animal encounters are incredibly special. They've got these beautiful crater lakes, which you can visit and walk around and swim in. We went rafting as well. So the rafting picture that everyone can see is us actually rafting on Grade 5 Rapids. And the street food is just incredibly tasty. So it was a wonderful country and one of our favorites for sure.
Jeremy, you spoke a lot about hiking and walking. I just want to tell everyone that Robin Sher has donated a reflexology appointment. When all of this has returned to normal and you're able to go for a massage or a reflexology, a huge thank you to Robin Sher, who has donated as a prize tonight a reflexology appointment, which I'm sure you needed after climbing all these heights in Uganda. So tell us, the capital city, Kampala?
It is indeed, yeah.
What's it like? Compare it to Johannesburg.
chaotic, busy. We were incredibly fortunate throughout our 9 months of travel. We had very few kind of hair-raising moments, but the border motorbike ride we took with our backpacks through the streets of Kampala at rush hour was absolutely terrifying. People are going down the wrong way, driving on the curve because the traffic's so crazy. It's absolutely chaotic. But it somehow works, and it was a fantastically terrifying experience, but we made it.
Fantastic. We have 1 minute left in the Uganda section, and then it's going to be pens down in one minute. So tell us, you've traveled through Africa. Besides for Uganda, give us 1 or 2 other highlights of places you've been in Africa that are must see.
I'd say for people in South Africa, one that perhaps I would hope is accessible is Malawi. We were there for a month, and you can go. It would be an amazing 2-week trip. You could go and spend a week on the lake, which is crystal clear. Loads of things you can do, on the lake, go swimming, go diving, go on paddle boards, etc. So you could spend some wonderful time on Lake Malawi. And then you can go walking again. They've got the Malanji Mountains, these beautiful huts throughout. It's 20 peaks over 2,000 meters, and you could walk for weeks if you wanted to. And it's just incredibly affordable. It costs $1 for the national park fee, and just a beautiful part of the world. So you can go and have a fantastically diverse holiday. You can spend some time on the lake, and then you can go walking, or perhaps go walking first and then relax on the lake afterwards.
Jeremy, you must have an absolute unique wife who's willing to do that rather than go sit on a beach in beach in Mauritius.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you, Howie.
Yeah, I was going to say it's time now for to end our Uganda section. Pens down. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us. It's really been fantastic to have you from your boat. On which river in England? Are you on the Thames?
We're on the River Lee.
On the River Lee, which is whereabout?
So we're just north of London. We're probably about 12 miles from the centre of London. Yeah, in Hertfordshire.
Fantastic.
I think it's worth giving a quick word to Jazza, to Jeremy, and Dylan and Jason Burt, who run an amazing sports travel company organization called Burts and Boards, and they take tours. I went with them with Mel to Japan last year for the Rugby World Cup. So things
unbelievable.
We've been put slightly on hold. They were meant to take a tour of the following the Proteas in West Indies in July. But yeah, they put together unbelievable experiences. So if you're ever keen to follow the Springboks or Bafana or the Proteas, they're your guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Very quickly, the email, if anyone fancies, is howsit@burtsandboards.com. Howsit@burtsandboards.com.
So thanks, put it on the chat so people can get access to it. Put it on the chat. And Stacey's saying, how do we see how many questions you've got right?
So unfortunately, you're going to have to
Dina, right at the end, there is a leaderboard.
Yes, so at the end, you will see once you submit your actual answers, you'll see it'll give you a highlight. It'll show you all of the questions that you've got right, all of that you've got wrong. It will actually give you the correct answers, and it will give you a score of each section, and then you'll be able to see how you fare against everyone else.
Fantastic. So Dina, what happens at the end of the Uganda section?
So at the end of the Uganda section, we are heading north to Israel. That is correct. We are heading to Roline Marks. And so in order to do that, we have to bring Roline back to the panel, and then you have to press next. And before that, you have to fill in the word, as one does on the way to Israel. You have to write the word Israel, all lowercase. Okay, so Israel is your code, ISRAEL, Israel. I feel like I'm at a school sports day. So that is the code you have to put in, and there we have Roline Marks.
Fantastic. So Roline, we're going to chat to you for 7 minutes, which means that we will exactly at 10 o'clock, we will finish the Israel section. So you had exciting news today. Your Minister of Health resigned or got fired. Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, I just want to say to everybody, Bruchim habayim leYisrael, welcome to Israel, and just a huge kol hakavod to you, Howie and Dina, for the exceptional work that you're doing, and to all of you guys from the South African Jewish community. I'm watching with tremendous pride to see what the community is doing, and I think you are such shining examples to the rest of the world how to get through, as Dina has so rightly said, this absolutely unprecedented time in our history. We really are living through a science fiction movie. But yeah, in Israel, news breaking just about an hour or so ago, our health minister, very, very controversial figure here in the country, has decided that he no longer wants to be the health minister. He would prefer to be the housing minister. And that's brought a sigh of relief for us as we navigate this massive health crisis. Yaakov Litzman is now no longer our health minister, and that will probably be a portfolio going to the blue and white who've asked for that. There are many people who think maybe Naftali Bennett, for the way that he has handled the crisis, the way he's able to communicate with people, the way he's been extremely rational, maybe he's a candidate, but he doesn't have any health qualifications, and we desperately want somebody who does.
And
fantastic. So tell us, I think a lot of people go to Israel and they go see the standard things. They go to Jerusalem, they go to the old city. I hope they go to see the Western Wall. I hope they walk down the Via Dolorosa. I'm sure they wander through Mishkot, Shananim, and Yamin Moshe, but there are also lots of great hidden secrets, and Tel Aviv is one of the great party capitals of the world.
Well, not only is Tel Aviv one of the great party capitals of the world, it's also one of the great culinary capitals of the world. So if you're looking for diverse and interesting cuisine, Tel Aviv has it all. But my favorite thing to do in Tel Aviv, and I've done it 7 times, and it's so apt because we're approaching a very, very sacred time in the Israeli calendar. We're between Yom HaShoah and now Yom HaZikaron, which we will start marking on Monday night, and then going into Yom HaAtzmaut, which of course this year is going to be completely different. But one of my partners in one of the projects that I run, Lay of the Land, his family are the founders of Neve Tzedek. And I love to do tours with him. It's the famous Shlush family. We do a walking tour through Neve Tzedek. We hear about the founding of the incredible city of Tel Aviv, some incredible family stories. And today you can still see Beit Knesset Shlush, or the Shlush Shul. It's a bit of a tongue twister there. The Shlush Street. You can see where the Nobel Prize winner for literature, Shai Agnon, where he wrote. It's just a beautiful part of Tel Aviv, and now is home to art galleries, beautiful restaurants. That's one thing to do. If you're going to Jerusalem, and I'm going to refer to food, do a tour of Machane Yehuda. Listen and hear how the different ethnicities form part of the market. Taste some of the food. You know, we're Jews. We love to eat. If we're not criticizing the government, engaging in our favorite sport, we're doing our other favorite activity, which is eating.
So talking of eating, I believe that in fact Israel has more vegan restaurants than any other place in the world.
Yes, we do. We have a huge vegan movement here in Israel, and it's not uncommon if you go to regular restaurants to see vegan options on the menu. I mean, I love that this whole conversation about Israel is around food, but of course we're Jews. Everything is, you know, they try to kill us, we survive, let's eat. But yeah, we have a huge movement here. In fact, our Ramatkal, our chief of staff of the army, is one of Israel's most famous vegans. So from the army to the tourists, we've got you covered if that's an option that you would like.
Absolutely. And then we've also got a question about sushi restaurants. So I believe there's quite a few sushi restaurants as well in Tel Aviv.
per capita, apparently we have more sushi restaurants than any other country. And, it proves yet again that our favorite pastime is eating, but not just eating, it's learning about the culture of different countries. Israelis are extremely well-traveled, and in fact we're all kind of struggling a lot with this lockdown, because traveling is one of the great activities that Israelis like to do, whether it's in the country itself or around the world. Israelis are naturally curious people. I'm sure you've all been the recipients of some unsolicited advice on a trip to Israel at some time or the other. But this is what we like to do. And if we can't go there physically, we like to do it with our cuisine.
And what would you say are like the most popular destinations from Israel?
Before you answer that, let me tell people 2 minutes, and then it's pens down in the Israel section. And after the Israel section, there's only one more country to go.
Exactly. We've got Gina after.
One of the great destinations is Primark, because it's not, if you're ever at Ben Gurion Airport, you will see people walking with their Primark packages. But all over the world, it's very popular once people finish with the army to head either to South America or to India, to Asia. Europe's very popular. We're hoping with a direct flight to Australia that was supposed to start next month, and we'll see now when travel lockdown or travel bans end, if there's those flights to Australia, which is a country I love. It's one of my favorite places in the world to visit, if that will resume. But a lot in Europe, even to places like Montenegro. Prague is very popular. In fact, no matter where you are in the world, you're sure to run into an Israeli. Maybe not so much in Iran or Eritrea, Dan, but we certainly all over the world, because we do love to travel.
I know. I was in Latvia and the entire hotel was Israeli. The whole of the Radisson Blu in Latvia. I was at the Sky Bar, and all I hear around me is Hebrew. So it was actually quite the experience. And in the middle of South America, in a place called Calafate, which is all the way south from Argentina, there were just Israelis. And literally, when they say it's a 2-horse town, I don't even think it has 2 horses, but full of Israelis. So they really are everywhere.
Dina, with that, it's time up on Israel. It's pens down on Israel. If everyone can please press the next button. Rolene, thank you so much for joining us. It's been lovely to see you and lovely to have you on the panel. Have a fantastic week and stay safe in Israel and stay well sanitized.
Always lovely to see you, Ro.
Fantastic. And with that, we are joined by Gina Flash. Gina, we did get the last bits of your husband doing your hair and makeup before you came on.
He was taking the red wine out. No, he wasn't. It's a pity. I wanted to say hi to Rolls. We went through NetSet together. I haven't seen him for years, so really great to see you. And
Gina,
thanks for having me on.
You run the Mensch Network. I'm sure a lot of people, particularly in the Johannesburg area, don't understand the remarkable work that Mensch Network actually does. So tell us about it and be quite specific. Give us some examples of what people in the Mensch Network are doing during this COVID experience.
Amazing. So very briefly, can I share my screen so that I can show you
Absolutely.
our site? Okay, great. So how we've all become so quick with this stuff. So our organization Mensch actually is an offshoot from the Jewish Board of Deputies in Cape Town. I used to work there for 4 years, and basically the network is a group of people that are Jewish and working in Greater South Africa. So working for the good of those that have been impacted by the past in our country and continue today. So we're talking about people outside of the Jewish community. But Mensch itself is a Jewish organization because the values that drive these people to do what they do is innately the values of Judaism. So what we do is we have on our site, which you can go to it, mensch.org.za, a big green button that says urgent needs during COVID-19. And what you can do, if I can just move my thing out the way, if you click on this button, it will take you to this page, which I prepared earlier, which is our appeal page. So basically, we've got a bunch of organizations that we work with day in and day out individuals who run organizations that help these people all the time. What they've done today is they've pivoted to the most urgent needs, which, as we know, is around food, access to food, access to healthcare, masks, mask making. So we've got a bunch of organizations that you can read about here. We've got people that work with refugees, H18 Foundation. Obviously the big names that we all know, Ikhamva Labantu, Africa Tikkun. This is Super Troopers, they work with the homeless. And some of the amazing things that I'm really proud of people for doing is that they have banded together. We are a network, and the whole idea of a social change makers network is much like a business network or any of our social networks. If you're looking for a plumber, you find one through someone who knows a good plumber. If you're looking for someone to collaborate with, who better than to look for another Jewish person working in social change? So here we've got Ikhamva Labantu, we've got One Love SA, which is a platform where you can literally go and offer from 200 Rand to feed a family to as much as you want to donate. And that is bringing people together. So NGOs on the ground that can deliver that food. We've heard from Cindy, Union of Jewish Women, working with partners on the ground. So the union are an example of one of our members. Who have we got here from Joburg? We've got Community Hours. So Craig Dogan's organization. This is the thing. Once we went into lockdown, everyone was like, what can we do? And just financial. Because have had to find opportunities for people to volunteer, so you can go onto their site and you can find them through our page as well. Another matchmaking platform here is Corona Care, and people are making masks. The Counseling Hub is started by Rami Kaplan and the SECAP Foundation. This is offering people a 50 Rand counseling fee session. So for 50 Rand, you can actually have access to therapy, which for most people is in South Africa is well out of their budget. And unfortunately, these are one-on-one contacts with volunteer social workers and psychotherapists. But now during lockdown, they've actually pivoted to an online telephonic model. So they need financial support for data, to make phone calls. Incredible organization that really is going to grow and grow, I think, in the coming time, as we can see that mental health is going to be as important as physical health. So these are just a few organizations, and what we do is we work with all the people on these that are mentioned on this page to literally work on developing them as individuals and as professionals. So Mensch offers training, professional training and development in everything from financial management to fundraising to personal development, stuff that we all need to improve ourselves to be good social entrepreneurs.
Gina, we are running out of time. So can I ask you, in the comment section, can you post the address for the Mensch Network? Let people go onto your website, let them try help all of those organizations that they're seeing on your website. That would be absolutely fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you.
All the best.
And Dina, that brings us to our final country. I don't know if there's a code that people need in order to get on, because I got a message from someone to say that they finished. So is there a next button? Or
there should be a next button, and there should be a code India, unless if someone's finished, that's very impressive. But the code should be India, INDIA, and there definitely will be a next button. And it will be taking you to the screen. Are you getting the code requirement?
I'm not on there. So if you do need a code,
the code is India, and
so we have 7 minutes for people to do the last section, which is India. It's amazing. We still have many hundreds of people in this competition, and we've got some amazing prizes to give away, and the India section has now begun. So
right, and just so you know, if people do finish quickly, it's going to ask you for a last question. The last question where it asks for submission ID, you need your name, your team name, and your email address, please. So the last question of the whole quiz, it's going to say submission ID. You need your name, your full name, your team name, and your email address, just so that we can track all your responses. So please do that.
So Etty's asking a question. She says, there's a question, who was the first Prime Minister of India? And Etty says, do you mean the first female Prime Minister of India? And no, Etty, we mean who was the first Prime Minister of India? The question is very specific. And maybe it was a female and maybe it wasn't a female. I'll tell you, there are a lot of very sneaky questions in that one.
Right, so guys, our official presenter for India is none other than Howard Sackstein himself, the key visitor of India. So I'm going to be posing some questions to Howie about India. I too have been to India, so loved it there. So Howie, you tell me, what was your favorite, and you have gone back more than once.
I've been back 4 times now.
Exactly. So that's quite a lot of time to go back to a country like India, which is, I'd say, quite a tough country to travel, quite far to get to. But tell us, why do you keep going back?
Look, I think India is the most remarkable country in the world. First of all, you have never met people that warm, that hospitable, that inviting. There hasn't been a trip to India where in every city I've been to that people haven't invited me back to their homes, invited me to stay with them, invited me out for dinner with them. You can never, in fact, be alone in India. Someone's always talking to you. Someone's always engaging with you. Someone's always joking with you. It's just the most hospitable place in the world. And the culture is just astounding. And, you know, I love Western Europe. I love North America. But everything in Western Europe and North America I understand. The culture's the same. The one cathedral looks like the next cathedral. It's more or less beautiful. But in India, nothing makes sense at all. To be in Varanasi on the Ganges River, to see bodies being burnt and the remnants thrown into the river, a place where Hindus go to die, because if you die in Varanasi, you gain eternal enlightenment. It's mind-blowing. Nothing makes sense at all. To be in these places, to see the magnificence of the Taj Mahal in Agra, the greatest symbol maybe of love that has ever been built in the world. These are just remarkable, remarkable experiences.
Absolutely. And again, you mentioned all those iconic places like the Taj Mahal, the Varanasi. What is, if you had to choose one place in India, what is your absolute favorite place?
So I think for me, Varanasi is remarkable because it's so different to everything else in the world. It is the oldest city in the world. It's 6,000 years old. There's a flame that by tradition has burnt for 6,000 years. And along the banks of the river Ganges are what they call the ghats, these stairs that go down to the river. And sitting on the stairs are people having little Hindu shiurim, and people being shaved, and people being massaged, and people having their hair cut. And at sunset, every evening, 7 Brahma priests, young Brahma priests, come onto the banks of the Ganges and they conduct a ceremony. And it's done with incense and smoke and feathers and fire. And the whole city comes down to the river Ganges and participates in the ceremony every evening. And I imagine it is what Jerusalem was 2,000 years ago. People living their religion on a day-by-day basis. So absolutely love that place. Another place for me, Goa, is just so special. The beaches of Goa are amazing. You can go to rave, you can go to relax, you can go and just have the most amazing experience on sometimes desolate beaches in a country filled with 1.3 billion people. You can go and sit on these desolate beaches and just relax, and the food is so special and remarkable.
I was going to actually ask you about the food because, I mean, the food, so obviously that cow there is sacred. In fact, you see the cow walking in the middle of the road and the traffic's going in all directions and there's 3 people on a motorbike holding their babies. I mean, it is a crazy place. But from a food perspective, there's a lot of vegetarian options. What kind of food do you eat when you're there?
So I will never eat beef there because I think it's disrespectful to Hindus, even though you can get beef there. But vegetarian is everywhere, and my preference is vegetarian in India. And there's pure veg, because a lot of Hindus don't eat meat. So pure veg, certainly the Jain religion, they don't eat meat either. So food is really easy if you're a vegetarian, and it's delicious. And unlike Durban, where curry is such a hot, spicy experience, Indian food is not like that at all. It's very succulent, it's very flavorful, but it's not spicy curry.
Exactly. And the water as well. Obviously, you have to watch out what water you're drinking all the time.
do not drink the water and do not brush your teeth with the water out of your
don't have
the
ice.
tap. And I made that fatal mistake on the brushing teeth because I'm so pedantic with my water in India, and I just, in some places I used the local water, and I suffered when I came back.
Yes, now I was on a turn. There were a few sufferers as well. Now, Tom, did you get to Jaipur, to the Pink City?
So I've never been to oh no, sorry, I have been to Jaipur. Of course I have. I saw the Palace of the Winds in Jaipur, and the unbelievable astronomical displays that they have there. And it also has the largest Bollywood theatre in the world, a movie theatre with about 2,500 seats in. And to actually experience a Bollywood movie in the middle of Jaipur amongst thousands of people, and they're queues to get in, it books up days in advance, and everyone goes, and they don't get popcorn and Coke the way you do in South Africa. They go and get dinner, because these movies are long movies. They go on 2.5, sometimes 3 hours, and everyone sits there with their curry next to you while they watch this Bollywood.
Everyone, you got 1 minute left.
We got 1 minute left, but everyone sits there, and the amazing thing, being a Westerner in a Bollywood movie theater, hundreds of people will walk up to you and say, do you understand what's going on? Can we explain to you? And they engage with you while the movie is actually participating. And that's just part of the magic that truly is India.
And did you go to any functions, weddings, Bollywood dances?
So I was told to go into a wedding, which I got kicked out of. I've been to the Sunburn Music Festival twice, which is a remarkable experience. It now takes place in a place called Vagator in Goa, and that's a clue because that's one of the questions that you'll have to be answering in the sheet in front of you. But wherever you go, you're welcome wherever you go, and particularly as a foreigner, they're so excited and happy to see foreigners. I on a daily basis, I get calls and Facebook messages and WhatsApps from people that I met in India who've invited me to their home, who check on me and check during lockdown, because it's lockdown in India now as well.
Amazing, amazing. And I saw also so you got 10 more seconds, guys. I also saw in India now there was a whole clap along for the medical staff there. Everyone got onto their balconies. They started cheering. It was unbelievable. So yeah.
Dina, is it pens down for
pens
India?
Down, guys. India, pens down, quiz down. So we are done. You have well done to everyone for persevering. Well done to the amazing racers who have gone through every single country with us.
How do people submit again? Tell us what the code is at the end.
All right. So at the end, you have the code is actually your name, your team name, and your email address, guys. So please, that's quite important because that's how we're going to determine the answers, the winners. So the last answer, submission ID, is your own ID, your own name, team name, email address. So hopefully people are starting to submit. How you should write as well for the form. Let's try and get into it to see if people have started submitting. And yeah, I mean, listen, we've been on a journey around the world. I think it's been spectacular. Hopefully everyone's learned quite a bit about various countries that they haven't been to, or starting to consider countries that they've never been to. So let us.
And Dina, we've got lots of prizes which we'll assign to people tomorrow, but you have a leaderboard as people, in fact, submit their answers. Can you see who's in the lead at the moment as people are submitting? So we need your name. We need your email address.
And yeah, let's just see if we can try and see.
So Lee Noodleman is saying, well done, you've reached the finish line. Submission ID, skip this field, do not edit this field, or your time will not be recorded. That's the message that people are getting.
Yeah, so they must fill in their name, team name, ID.
And
yeah, I'm refreshing. We've got a lot of responses coming in. Sorry, it's on.
Can you share your screen with us and let us see what you're looking at?
I'm trying to. Sorry, it keeps updating because there are. All right, so sorry, I've only got one now. So let me get to my score so far. Hold on, let me share my screen with you. Let's get there. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you. And let me minimize so I can see where we are. Okay, hold on. There we go. Can you see where we
it's a
are?
little small. Can you maximize?
Possibly could have, but let's just try. Okay. Sorry, it keeps updating because it keeps bringing in the new responses. Okay. So where are we now? This is actually showing, so you can see now, so far we've got 65 responses in. Guys, please, time is up, have to do it. Otherwise it's gonna be overtime. And obviously your score is your score. So far we've got the 65 responses. Again, people are playing in teams. So we're assuming there are 3, maybe 4, potentially even 5 people per team. You can see the points distribution. Sorry, it's again, because it's updating, it's actually freezing a little bit. I'm going to try and move down. Let's try and do that. I'm really trying to do. Apologies. Okay.
So Myrna Sachs is saying when they got their spelling wrong, they were marked wrong. Well, I'm terribly sorry, but spelling apparently does count. And there's some people telling us that when they used lower caps or caps, that it got marked wrong. Well, I'm sorry, you should have done it correctly. Mark Hummel says they use small letters and lost out. Was there any compulsory everything should be in caps, Dina?
So when the answers go into the system, I had actually put in a few options of lowercase and uppercase, so it should have caught a lot of those. So apologies if you didn't get it right, but I literally, if you put it all in caps, then it was probably marked wrong.
Dominique is asking, what is the submission ID? And Dominique, the submission ID is your name, your email address, and your team name. Is that correct, Dina?
That is correct. Sorry, so looking now that tom@kinsler.co, so we'll have to be able to go into these later. Let's just see, can I release the scores? Okay.
How many responses have we got back? 182.
So no, that's the number out of 182.
Out of 182. So Tom's got 125, Saidi got 115, Ilan got 112. I see there's 142 from Jeff Mizduk, 110. Oh my goodness, people have done really well in this quiz.
Aaron Kalman got 137, Lara Kohanovitz 135. Again, sorry, Howie, maybe you want to go into your Gmail as well and try and see if you can get into the screen, just because mine is freezing up a bit.
If I knew how, I gladly would. But
I sent you a link.
You said, okay, responses.
On your email address. Okay.
Okay, fantastic.
I have that. See, my page is just being unresponsive. So I only got 1 point. Let's see what else we've got here. We got Leanne Gerson got 129. David Zeidel, we still think you're a genius, and thank you for your books. 105. Paula Norman 112. Okay, we're going to be scrolling down, but guys, I think everyone has done remarkably well. I think it was tough. I think our timing was tight, and I think that yeah, as soon as we can collate and get down. Sorry, let us close a few things. All right. Let's just wait because we don't want to close it. Being a bit unresponsive. I don't know if you want to bring back some panelists who may be still on there to start talking about their answers at the same time, so we can start discussing what was right, if they think it was difficult. Here we go, we're getting a bit more traction. Lisa Hart got 129, Debbie Fine got 130, Andrea Wayner got 139. I think 139 looks like our highest score, Andrea, you legend. So I think Andrea looks like she's in the lead at the moment. Oh wait, we've got DK Pele at 141. And then Rubber Stamp Man at 135. Let us see, we got 141 with Eti Schmuckler. Yeah, so that looks like our highest score, guys, so far. Can you see any ones that I'm missing?
we'll be able to check all of that tomorrow. So for example, the countries that are bordering on Peru, people are complaining that they got the correct countries, but in a different order. So if you did get them in the correct, in a different order, we'll gladly give you the 1 extra mark.
In fact, what you can do is email, I'm just trying to think who's the best email.
Well, I can tell you that Punsi thinks we're marking too strictly, that this should be GED based, not IEB. But Punsi did relatively well. I was quite impressed with Punsi. And the Sadal said, small letters don't work on a quiz. You should use capitals at the beginning of the word.
So I'll have to tell you, for most of the answers, I did put in multiple answer. You should have been able to have capital, all caps, sorry, all lowercase, then capitals. That should have been taken into account. So those should have been marked, right? So I'm getting a note that Jeff Misdick got 142. So let's see.
Wow, yeah, Bernard Seif says to the Misdooks, well done, Misdooks, 142. The fact that they Bernard's family is kind of besides the point. And Debbie Fine says we got a lot of questions that were correct but were marked wrong. So Debbie, you will have to show us that.
All right, so again, we're going to have to allocate the prizes post, because we also have to, maybe we'll do a bit of a post-mortem, but then please, if you think you've got things right that were wrong, screenshot them. And then what you can do, I don't know if I should be doing this, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. You can email me with your screenshot that shows that it's wrong, but it's actually right, and we will reallocate your points. So we'll have to do a bit of a tally after this. So you can email me, dina.k.diamond@gmail.com. So dina.k.diamond@gmail.com. If you think you were underdone, if you think you should have got it right, and if you think your points are going to make a difference to the leaderboard, the top leaderboard, then please email me, please screenshot the actual answer that you had, and then we will allocate additional points, and then we will get our official auditors, the South African Jewish Report, to retally the votes. And again, only if you think that you are going to be in the top, say, 10, please do email me and screenshot the correct answers, and we will fix up the points, and then we will be giving out the prizes accordingly.
So Dina, a few people have asked me, they want to make a donation through to the Jewish Report to thank us for all the hard work that the report has been doing for continuing to publish as well as provide these platforms. So we're going to give people 2 options. The one option is for people to be able to make a donation through WalletDoc. So on your screen at the moment, it's www.walletdoc.com/pay/SHIR. I'm going to leave that on the screen for a second. So people who want to make a donation to thank the Jewish Report for continuing to publish during this period, as well as for delivering to people's homes, which is an enormously costly thing that we went through to give a sense of normality and create community during this period. So if you'd like to make a donation, please do it through WalletDoc over there. In another minute, I'm also going to give you the Zapper code. If you have Zapper on your phone, you'll be able to make a donation there as well. And we will go through all the details. So if you're worried about any of your answers which you think were marked incorrectly, but you think were correct, please put it in the comment section. And Dina, you also gave people your email address, which was a very, very brave thing to do.
I know.
It's Dina.k.
.diamond. I'm putting it into the comments at the moment. So please email me with the screenshot that shows your correct answer, please, because that's the only way we're going to be able to verify it, because I know that the system does show you if it got it wrong or right, and it shows you correct answer. So if it has been incorrectly marked, please send it to me. I will with obviously and your email address that was entered into, because that's how I'm going to actually be able to sort of verify. So please send the email address that you entered the system with and your screenshot, and we will double check the answers.
And on the screen at the moment is also the Zapper code. If people have Zapper on their phone and they'd like to make a donation through to the South African Jewish Report, we have a remarkable editor in Peter Cross-Maunder, a great CEO in Danny Kedar, and a fantastic staff. And they have tirelessly been putting together the Jewish Report newspaper throughout this entire period. I'm sure many people had home deliveries as well as picked up at Pick n Pay and Dischem and Woolworths during this period as well. So,
Dan,
so
how
we want fantastic. Thank you, Dan. That's a very generous donation. Really, really appreciate it. And with that, I'm sure there are people who would like to talk about some of the countries that we've gone to tonight. So, Dina, tomorrow we have to check all of the details and we have to allocate some amazing prizes. And let's just quickly talk about some of the prizes that we have. So from the Dark Kitchen, we have 500 Rand gift voucher. From Voodoo Lily, we have 500 Rand gift voucher. From Arbor Cafe, we have 500 Rand gift voucher. All of those absolutely amazing. Thank you, guys. Let us not forget as well that Sheki Flexer has put together a set of masks with matching kippot for the entire family.
Awesome.
Love that absolute that prize from Shalom from Africa. That's absolutely amazing. We've had some fantastic donations. David Zardel as well. 10 copies of his book David Zardel has given through to us, which is absolutely amazing. We have Daniela Scher, who's given us a voucher for a sports massage, which I wish I could actually win part of today.
I had one today from her and I can vouch for the quality. Absolutely remarkable. After sitting all those hours in front of the computer, I needed it.
Dan, that was not social distancing.
I was just going to let that slide, Howard. You meant virtual, of course.
Virtualness.
Of course.
So I see people are commenting that, for example, they put the 14th Dalai Lama instead of the Dalai Lama in, and so just send Dina if you were overachieving and you put in too much information. Like I see someone said they put in the Ugandan shilling rather than the shilling. So if you believe you need your extra point, you can send Dina dina.k.diamond@gmail.com, and she will allocate you any points that you think you were done out of during this process.
I've got nothing to do. We're in lockdown. It's okay.
and Stacy is offering a behavioral dog consultation worth 700 Rand in your home after lockdown, which is also, what a wonderful prize that is. I hope the person who wins that actually has a dog or another animal, otherwise it will just be a little weird. So we're saying Daniela Scher has given us a sports massage. We've had an amazing prize as well for reflexology. We've had consultations as well as all of this. So many prizes have come in. We're going to allocate everything that is here, and we'll get hold of people tomorrow and tell them what prizes they've won. Dan, are you bringing up now all of the people who were on our...
And I can also donate an Excel workshop if we need an extra prize.
You're the best.
We
Dan, I
always
have to
need
tell
prizes, Dan.
Dan's the best. We love Dan. And I have to tell you, I actually logged onto one of your Excel courses the other day. They're fantastic. Like tricks, even if people think they know how it works and how it integrates and the PowerPoint.
You don't know what you don't know.
You can learn a shortcut. You can learn something new all the time. So highly recommended.
Thank you. Thank you for the punt. Appreciate it. So who are we bringing up? Who's still here? Do you want to put your hands up? Put your virtual hand up if you are a panelist and you want to come back on the panel. There we go.
Yeah, guys, so we hope that you've, honestly, we've been locked at home, but we hope that we've taken you on a journey around the world. We hope we've shown you new places that you will consider, because I think I'm certainly considering new places, love traveling, and yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. So thank everyone for participating. I know you've stayed in there, you've Googled hard, but I think everyone's learned a lot.
So also, I want to tell people about what our next panel is. So tomorrow afternoon, And Dan, we'll have to early tomorrow morning, because we haven't really sent out notification about this at all. But tomorrow afternoon, 3 o'clock, we've got Yid Kids Got Talent. It's a talent show with young Jewish kids are going to be singing and playing guitar and playing piano and performing. And we did a dress rehearsal on Friday, and it was absolutely spectacular. So Dan, we're going to get those links out tomorrow morning first thing, but that's on tomorrow, Sunday, the 26th of April.
We did send the email out. Howie, sorry to interrupt you, but we did send it out just before Shabbos. So everybody should have an email in their inbox, and you can just click on that in the meantime to register. And also what's quite convenient, I think most people have realized by now, but we just changed the number at the end of the link. Isn't that right, Howie? So tomorrow's event is 12. So you just go to excelacademyinc.com/SHAR12, and that will get you to the registration page.
And on Tuesday night, Herschel Jarvitz will be running a panel called How to Keep You and Your Business Afloat. And we've got some amazing people. We're going through labor law issues, employment issues, how to claim from UIF, how to get a loan from one of the government funds or the Oppenheimer Fund or the Rambam Trust, or what is OrtJet doing during this period. We've gone through multiple organizations. We're having people from banks coming on to talk about the bank holiday and how you take advantage of that. So if you have a business or if you're an employee, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, it's going to be absolutely crucial. We'll send the details out on Monday, but it's going to be an enormously valuable panel, because I think so many people are facing unemployment or facing issues at the moment. So please register. It's SAJR 13, and it's Dan. This is Monday, but it's not Monday. It's actually going to be Tuesday at 8 o'clock. And amongst the people who will be on will be Larry Dave and Alon Reyes, and we'll be looking at businesses and employment and leases and bank loans and community loans and all those things. That will be Tuesday afternoon. That we'll be doing. So
Tuesday night, 8 p.m.
Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Absolutely. So Dan, you've brought back Dan Brockman. You've brought back Hugh Reichland. Let's start with Hugh. Hugh, you take tours not just to Lithuania. You've taken Jewish heritage tours to Morocco and India as well, haven't you?
That's correct. Yes, Howard.
That's what I also want to know about Morocco specifically.
Tell us about Morocco.
Well, I must tell you, Morocco was absolutely magnificent. And, you know, all the countries that I've been to in the world have been either Christian or, for example, to go to India, you go to a Hindu country. But for me, to go to a Muslim country was absolutely mind-boggling. And I think that, you know, most Jews would be very concerned about going to a Muslim country because of their reaction to you being a Jew. And I was so pleasantly surprised. They're a very moderate country. And although politically they don't officially allow Israeli tourists into the country, but in truth, there is an informal way that you can get in. But their respect was absolutely amazing. We actually brought the Shabbos project to Marrakesh. We were in Morocco on the Shabbat of the Shabbat project, and we had a magnificent Shabbat with the community. We joined them in the shul. It was quite packed, the shul, with lots of mainly Israeli tourists, but they've got quite a strong community with a number of vibrant shuls throughout the country. And it was absolutely wonderful. When we were walking home, it was about a 45-minute walk from the shul back to our hotel. And people were saying Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. And we were walking with our kippot. We were walking in our Shabbat clothes, a group of about 30 people. And it was just, I had to pinch myself and say, it almost felt messianic.
Well, you know, you mentioned you felt like a little awkward being a tourist in the Muslim world, but can I say, and I'm sure Dan spent time in Iran, and I spent time in places like Egypt and Jordan and the United Arab Emirates and in very heavily Muslim parts of India, and you are always welcome. And people have no issues with you being a Jew. These are some of the most remarkable, culturally rich places to go in the world. Dan, you were in Iran. You in fact went to go visit the Jewish community in Iran. Tell us a little about the Jewish community that you found there.
Sure. So actually, I wrote an article which I think actually might be
Oh, we're losing him
some
there.
stories from my trip to Iran. But so, can you hear me now? Better? Okay. Yeah. So the Jews in Iran. So before the Islamic Revolution in 1979, there were over 100,000 Jews in Iran. Today there are about 15,000. And in order to interact with the Jewish community in Iran, you actually need official permission from the government, which I didn't know when I got there. So we were in Esfahan during my trip, and I just rocked up to shul on a Friday evening without government permission. And I'll never forget, I walk into the shul and everyone stares at me. I stand out like a sore thumb. I don't have permission. They don't know who I am. They're quite fearful to speak to me. And luckily, there was one young guy in the shul who spoke English, and he actually came and sat next to me, and then we started to speak. But eventually, during the trip, I actually applied for government permission to meet with the leaders of the Jewish community of Tehran, which I did. And I spent a whole day going to kosher restaurants in Iran and visiting shuls and just sort of seeing what type of communal life they have.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. You make a point wherever you go to try and see the Jewish community.
Even when there's only one Jew left, like in Eritrea.
So I can tell you, for example,
Howard,
in Burma, I'll be with you in a second. In Burma, there's in fact the most beautiful shul in Rangoon, in what's now called Yangon. There is only one Jewish family in the country. They run a tour company called Shalom Tours. And the shul is looked after by a Muslim family. And it is absolutely beautiful. You can go in. There's Sifrei Torah. There's the most beautiful shul for people to see, if those people traveling to Myanmar, what Burma is now known as. Hugh, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, Howard, just to add another anecdote about the wonderful relationships between Jews and Muslims in Morocco. We were privileged to meet Andrei Azoulay, who is a Jew that is an advisor to the King of Morocco. And we actually met him in Essaouira. I have a friend that is connected to Andrei, and he came to speak to our group. And it's an amazing thing just to see, first of all, the position he holds, the respect that he is accorded. And he's actually renovating a shul in Essaouira. And I just heard as of 2 weeks ago that unfortunately COVID has affected a lot of the Jewish community in Morocco. And they're an older community, the aging people, and they've been quite hard hit by the coronavirus. And there was a particular Jew that passed away, an old Jew that passed away in Essaouira. And the minyan for the funeral was made up predominantly by his Muslim friends in Essaouira. So it's very heartwarming to actually see the wonderful relationship between Jews and Muslims in Morocco.
And fantastic.
Sorry,
Dan, just speak
something.
Okay, Dan, a comment, and then we're going to ask Ariella to join us as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was just going to say that even in North Korea, I mean, there never have been Jews in North Korea, but an interesting Jewish story was my very first day in Pyongyang. They took us to Pyongyang's only Viennese cafe, and they had different postcards that were written by tourists that had been to that cafe. And I remember sitting down with my Viennese coffee in Pyongyang, looking down, and it was a postcard written in Hebrew by an Israeli tourist. So it just goes back to what Rolene was saying, that Israelis really are everywhere, including in North Korea.
Wow.
Amazing. Ariella, tell us, you and Dick travel a lot. You very regulars in Portugal, for example. Well, let's unmute you.
Oh yeah, you're yeah, I'm unmuted. So yeah, thank God we have Dick's dad lives between Holland and Portugal in Alvor. So we have a home there that we go and try and visit at least once a year, if not more. With regards to the Jewish community, that's very interesting because when we started going there, what was it, about 10 years ago, darling? About 10 years ago, we actually, like everyone else, our mission was to find a shul, to find a Jew, to find something that we could connect to. And in Alvor, we actually met a couple, and they were, what was his first name? He's passed away since. Her name was Judy, because I always remember the synonym of Punch and Judy. But they were ex-South Africans who had gone, oh no, sorry, Dina, do not laugh. And they had gone to Portugal on a holiday to the Alvor and decided they absolutely loved it. And they met Hashem, they phoned their children and said, pack a container, we're not coming back. From South Africa, from Joburg, I think it was. And Lawson and that was the end of them. And they literally moved the entire container, and he decided he was going to be the self-appointed, I don't know, Mashiach of the Alvor. And you only actually have a shul in Lisbon. You don't have the luxury of one anywhere else in Portugal. Getting hold of kosher food is practically close to impossible. I'm sure in Lisbon you have a better chance, but certainly not in Alvor. And only today is it a 2.5 hour drive on the highway to get between Alvor and Lisbon. You didn't even have the luxury of that. And what was so amazing was while we were there over the time, in fact, the Lubavitch had sent a couple of Bochrim around to visit Punch and Judy. We'll just call him Punch and Judy because I can't. Ralph and Judy. There we go. Punch and Judy. Ralph and Judy. And it was actually amazing how they came and they did a Shabbos with them so that they could do Kiddush and they could do it properly. It was really actually great. I don't think the Lubavitch saw exactly absolute compliance that they were probably hoping for. I don't think I saw the compliance I was hoping for, but it was definitely an experience, and committed to keeping, honestly, Or Lagoyim, to keep that torch burning for Jewry in Portugal at a time where it really was depressed. It had practically been abandoned by the EU after they'd put a bunch of money in, and the only thing you'd see at the end of the freeway was a goat walking across. It certainly wasn't the activity you see today, and it was quite phenomenal. So sadly, Ralph has died, and no one has actually carried the mantle in Alvor. We don't live there, so I haven't taken on that mantle yet. I think my husband's quite happy for the moment, but it was something that we found very special, and it was amazing that it came out of South African Jewry that landed up in Alvor.
Amazing. I can tell you a Portuguese story. So in Porto, which is one of the most beautiful cities you would ever go to on the coast of Portugal, and on the west coast of Portugal, that is, and there never was a Jewish community until recently, because the city was in fact owned by the church, and it was full of monasteries and nunneries and cathedrals. But there was a great tussle between the Portuguese government, that was really a secular government, and the church, and they tried really hard. The government came to take over, and the bizarre story of Porto is the fact that there are two train stations, one that goes north-south and one that goes kind of east from the city. And the reason why there are two train stations is that the government decided that they wanted a specific building as their train station. But it was a nunnery, and this was the war between the state and the church. But they did a deal, and they said, we will not in fact confiscate your nunnery for the church while there are any of these nuns left alive, but we will not allow you to admit any new nuns into the nunnery. And there was one nun who lived well into her 90s, because she had no intention of in fact the government ever getting hold of their nunnery, and they had to build a second train station, which is the train station that goes north to south, because they were waiting for this one nun to die so they could take the nunnery away for their other train station.
Oh wow.
Howie,
I actually wanted to tell you, sorry to interject there, guys, that another place, very briefly, because I'm mindful of time and I don't want to hijack the conversation, but another fascinating exposure we had to Jewry was actually in St. Petersburg. And again, it was probably about 9-10 years ago when we were there. The most fascinating 10 days. And we obviously made a mission to go to the shul, and how they have a small shul next door where they actually daven. But again, to see the whole community, to see the Kehillah that you would never imagine exists. And when you arrive there, I mean, you got to speak Hebrew or Russian. That's your odds. I went straight into Hebrew. They assume my husband was fluent as a result of that. We had a good giggle. They tried to get him up on the bema. There was another good giggle, but it definitely was. It definitely was an experience. And I do agree with what Dan's saying and what Hugh said earlier, and what you are saying, is that as Jews, to travel, to not actually go and find out stuff about a community is almost a tragedy, because there's so many amazing memories and moments you're going to walk away with, because they love interacting with us as much as we actually enjoy finding out, because it just gives an extra layer in the tapestry to your trip.
Absolutely. And I think you also referred to Chabad earlier, and no matter where I've been in the world, even, and you were talking about the rivers and water in India, Howie, is that even I was in Pushkar in India, And who was there laying to fit in at sunset? Chabad. Wherever you go in the world, there's Chabad. And you, very nice. But and again, that's so that we catch these Israelis. I think Israelis are everywhere. But Chabad, I mean, from Vilna in Lithuania to Japan to India, it's just phenomenal. Chabad literally are everywhere. Them and Coca-Cola.
Absolutely.
Did you know? Oh, sorry.
North Korea, apparently.
Howie?
Yes, go ahead.
How much time have we got? Because I just wanted to ask you, mention something about Oporto. Have we got 2 minutes?
Yeah, we got 2 minutes. We're going to wrap this up entirely in 10 minutes. So we've got 10 minutes still to speak to people. Between YouTube and this, we've got about 100 logins still. So probably about 200, 250 people watching us at the moment.
Okay, wonderful. So did you go to the shul in Oporto, the synagogue?
So I wasn't there over a Shabbos, so I didn't get to the shul, but there is a community there and it is functioning.
It's amazing. It was built by Kaduri. It's a massive shul and it's very, very beautiful inside. And when we went inside, we were speaking to some of the Jews that live in Oporto, and the one guy is an elderly man. He must have been in his 70s. And he told us that he had a Brit Milah by the barber in Oporto. There's still hidden Jews in Portugal to this day after the Inquisition. And they used to do secret Brit Milot through this barber in Oporto, which I thought was absolutely fascinating. And there are a number of people that are Magaring and coming back to Judaism after hundreds of years after the Inquisition. And in fact, the security guard of the synagogue was a convert. And it was wonderful to meet him. When we were in Lisbon, if I can just very briefly mention, in Lisbon, I met 3 guys that were Magaring. We went to the beautiful synagogue in Lisbon, and one of them said to me that he's from Mozambique. His name was João Silva. And I said, João, that is amazing. I come from South Africa. We're next door neighbors. What are you doing here? So he said that there's an organization, a worldwide organization called Shavei Yisrael, that specifically are there to convert people from Spanish and Portuguese backgrounds to bring them back to Judaism. That's the area that they specialize in. So he left Mozambique to go to Portugal to learn with Rabbi Boaz Pash, who's the rabbi of the synagogue there, and he was converting these 3 Gentiles to Judaism. And João shared with me, he said that when he went back, first of all, when he went back to Mozambique to visit his family, he was talking to his grandmother. Her name was Esther Cardoza, which is a typical Marrano name. And he said to her that he's Magaring in Lisbon. And when she heard that he was Magaring, she said to him in Portuguese, "What are you doing? They're going to burn you." Now, this is a fascinating story, because that means some 400 years after the Inquisition, embedded in this woman's head, and she's clearly of Marrano stock, was still the auto de fe that went on in Portugal and Spain in 1492 and the years leading up in the Inquisition. And that's why I've said that, deep in the body of every human being, in the soul of every Jew, is hundreds, if not thousands of years of history that has become part of our genetic makeup.
Dan, where have you found Chabad that's in an obscure place?
In an obscure place.
Because everywhere he goes is very normal.
I actually had quite a cool Chabad experience. It's not super obscure, but I was in Santiago, Chile in December, and I was with some friends from Joburg, and I just, it was a Friday morning, I randomly emailed the Chabad in Santiago, and within 10 minutes, the Rebbitzin phoned and said, "Come for supper tonight," and we were a group of 7. And it was literally us, the Rebbitzin, and 2 other people. She was originally from Brooklyn and has been there for over 30 years. And what was really cool about the Chabad in Santiago is they did the synagogue is a replica of, is it called 770? What's the one in where the Rebbe's? Yeah. It's a replica of 770 in Brooklyn, but it's in Santiago. So it was really cool going to shul. Shabbat services only started, Kabbalat Shabbat started at 9 p.m. because it got dark so late. And we had Shabbat dinner at, I think, 11 or 11:30 at night. So that was a pretty memorable experience. But I actually wanted to ask all of you, something that I'm really afraid of is are we going to be able to travel after this? I'm really curious, what are your thoughts on travel post-lockdown?
I think we're going to be stuck here for a while. Ari?
I wanted to actually make a comment. Before you digress into the whole lockdown, because I think that will take us into a tangent that can probably take a solid half an hour. To keep in the theme on just interesting places in Judaism, I don't know how many of you have ever had the opportunity, because I know all of us on this panel here have traveled extensively, but to see in the Portuguese synagogue in Amsterdam. And if you haven't, and my husband just reminded me, that is probably one of the most fascinating buildings. And just down the road is actually the Jewish Museum. And I think they honestly rival what I have seen in Israel and some of the best in the world. But what was my biggest takeaway with the Portuguese synagogue, which I think is a takeaway for anyone listening here, is that it is actually built as a replica of the Temple Mount, literally to scale. That is what it is built. And in fact, if you walk in today, you've got 1,000 brass sconces. There's still no electricity. It's all candles on the pews, and they still have sawdust on the floor to actually dampen the noise. And by the Aron Kodesh, you've got the barley sticks like you'd find in the Vatican, but it is absolutely mind-blowing. And what was so interesting is this is, whether it's urban legend or whether it is indeed fact, I was told it was indeed fact, that during the Second World War, the Nazis, while they were basically destroying nearly every synagogue they could lay their hands on or anything to do with Jewish religiosity, they never ever touched the Portuguese synagogue. And the question which was asked is, why didn't they? Is because its design was the exact scale of the Temple Mount. They were actually nervous that there was something religious or divine about it, that if they actually did any damage to it, what the repercussions from whether it's Hashem or anything would be. And so they actually chose to just stay away. And as a result of it, it is completely unblemished, no damage, and probably one of the most inspirational synagogues to go into because of its history. So I just had to tell you that before we went on to Corona lockdown. And I think we need more of these virtual tours for everyone to just keep seeing. I think the next panel should be different shuls around the world. It's incredible.
So Ari, before we get off the Portuguese synagogue, so you mentioned it has no electricity, so it has no lights either. So it is lit by 1,000 candles. It has no heating. So in fact, so you know how cold it gets in Amsterdam as well. So there are places for fires too. But can you imagine walking into this beautiful cathedral-like shul with 1,000 burning candles? It's one of my great fantasy ambitions to actually see 1,000 candles lit in that shul.
It's insane.
But let me tell you, the shul in
hold on,
Ariella, that cathedral-like, which is magnificent. So.
Ariella, did they tell you why they named it the Portuguese shul in Amsterdam?
Well, I actually know, because it's from the Sephardim, and actually, funny enough, it was the Spanish Jews that came, but there was a crossover, and I stand to be corrected in my memory, but it was actually the Spanish Jews that came, but because they were Sephardi, they actually somehow got confused and it landed up being the Portuguese. Do you remember the exact detail? No, I can't remember the exact detail, but I do know that it was actually Spanish Jews. I'd love you to, yeah.
So the story is that the Spanish Inquisition happened slightly before the Portuguese Inquisition. So the Spaniards went across into Portugal, but then afterwards, they from Portugal, they went up to Holland. That was one of the places that they fled to. So the shul was actually built by people fleeing the Inquisition in Spain and Portugal.
Yeah, that part I knew of them fleeing the Pilgrims and the Inquisition, but I knew that there was the Spanish first, and then that was it. They went via Portugal. You're 100% correct.
Via Portugal to Holland, yeah.
You know, you mentioned...
You must have it traveled.
I like this. I also think so.
Dina, you mentioned Chabad. I want to tell you a Chabad story. So I was in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, heading down to Sihanoukville to the beach, when I got a message from Saul Jasinowski to say, we've collected 23 South African Jews here on the beach. Bring kosher food. And my bus was in 2 hours' time. And I went down to my hotel reception and I said, I need to find something called Chabad of Cambodia. And they didn't know what I was talking about, but they looked on the internet, and there I discovered Rabbi Butman, who is the Chabad rabbi in Phnom Penh. And I called him up and I said, Rabbi, I'm on a bus in 2 hours to Sihanoukville. I need kosher food. It's Shabbos tonight. There are 23 South Africans. We're getting together for dinner. What can you do? And he said, get into a tuk-tuk and come to my home. And I arrived at his home, and he had set up a production line of people frying kosher schnitzels. They gave me bottles of gefilte fish. The challah that they had baked for their own home and their own service said, don't worry, we'll bake more today. He gave me all the challah, and I got onto a bus with people carrying chickens and animals in cages, and I had my own petlach of fried schnitzels and gefilte fish, and I carried on my own petlach. And that night in Cambodia, in Sihanoukville, we had Shabbat dinner for the 23 South African Jews who were there.
That's
amazing. Chabad
Now,
are
yeah,
amazing.
Sorry.
They're amazing.
I wanted to say that when we were in Antarctica, as a surprise, that obviously accommodated my strict eating habits just from a health angle, but obviously the over and above health, they had kashrut to deal with. And on the Shabbos evening, the chef, because they have this private chef, and he was from England, and he had a super sense of humor, and he comes out and it's all packed, and from Checkers Kosher, they left schnitzel. I'm not kidding. And he goes, and we got the tinfoil, and we've got the everything. We just want to check it's compliant. And I got to tell you, when am I ever going to say that I got to have Checkers Kosher schnitzel sitting in that Antarctica? So there we go.
So we've got about 2 minutes left before we tune off. So let us have one thought maybe from everyone on the panel. Dan, let's start with you. Travel, well, it may be until we get a vaccine. Maybe that's when next we're going to be traveling. But where would you like to go next? What's high up on the agenda that you haven't got to? Where's your fantasy place?
Where would you go
when travel opens up again?
So a few places that I'm very interested in going to are Iraq and Algeria.
You do know you're insane.
Funny, I was actually thinking exactly that.
And you do know your mother probably hates you. Hey, how does your mother cope when you tell her that you want to go to Iraq?
I don't tell my parents, so I only phone them once I get back.
Exactly.
I remember I phoned my parents from the airport in Beijing when I landed back from North Korea. And I remember phoning them and saying, hi, I'm in Beijing. And they said, why are you in Beijing? And I said, because I just came back from North Korea. And then I also remember phoning them from the Tehran airport saying, hi, I'm in Tehran leaving. So that's sort of how my parents find out about my travels. In terms of normal countries to go to, I'd actually really like to go to Moldova. Which is the least visited country in Europe. And they actually apparently produce incredible wine, and they're a former Soviet republic. Another goal of mine is I want to do all the former Soviet republics. So those are the more normal countries.
You know, the Israelis call them the Stanim, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. You can do a tour of the Stanim.
And I just also want to just erase a misconception that travel doesn't have to be expensive. It just depends on how you do it. Often when people hear about people traveling, they say, oh, well, you must be so wealthy, or that must cost a fortune. But I mean, even though we're talking about different places we've been to, I'm sure we've done our trips in very different ways. And you can travel really on the cheap, or you can do it very luxuriously. But I do think that travel is possible if you're willing to be flexible in terms of creature comforts.
Amazing. Hugh, last comment from you. Where would you love to go to that you've never been to before?
Who was that question to?
You.
To you, Hugh.
Oh, I couldn't get. How would you broke up over there?
So where would you like to go to that you haven't been to yet?
Back to Morocco. I know it's where we've been before. We actually have but where I haven't been to, I guess I would like to see the Scandinavian countries. That's a place, a part of the world that I haven't seen.
You want to see the aurora.
You can borrow Ariella's clothing that she used to Antarctica, because at the Northern Lights I hit minus 40 degrees. That's not something you want to experience.
Yeah.
Ari,
I actually want to steal that knowledge from you, because funny enough, you're reading our minds, because the next thing we would love to do is see the Northern Lights. Dick would love to go to Alaska. I definitely would love to do Alaska. We'd love to do that more northern region, find the polar bear we didn't find in Antarctica, Dean, and definitely see those auroras. There's also, I would love to do Iraq. So Dan, I'm in your camp. I think it's going to be a long time before we get to do it. In fact, when I was at Columbia Business School, one of my professors, He was Iraqi and he left in 1979 when the Shah got deposed. And to listen to how beautiful it was the Paris of the, of the Middle East. And I think it's a sad of what is lost, and it's something that I would be fascinated. What I would tell all of you that you have to go to is Petra before there is more tourist damage. That was probably one of the most fascinating trips we've done.
Petra's amazing. I can vouch for that. Unbelievable. I
So,
enjoyed it.
Ari,
in case anyone's wondering
you
where it
talk to me because I've done Alaska, I've done Iceland, I've done the Northern Lights in Norway. So you speak to me, I'll send you to some of the coldest places in the world.
With hot flashes, I'm loving it. Trust me, I'm in. I'm in.
And by the way, I highly recommend Finland. I've been to Helsinki twice, but I've never done the Northern Lights.
Dan, I would love to know what's top of your agenda.
So I actually went on an Innovate trip to Helsinki, and it was fantastic. So I can vouch for that. Top of my agenda, wow, Northern Lights would be phenomenal. Yeah, right now I'm actually excited just to get on a plane again, anywhere. Not too fussy, so I'm looking forward to that.
You're telling us Cape Town would be acceptable.
But I must be honest, I love the idea of, like Jazza was talking about Malawi. I love that idea. I haven't done enough of Africa. I have been to the Okavango. That was remarkable. That was really an amazing experience on the Makora boats in the Delta. I'd love to do the Vic Falls. I'd love to do Malawi. I have been to Rwanda, but yeah, I didn't get up to the gorillas. So there's just so much, and there's so much that's close and that's proudly African as well.
Fantastic. Dina, tell us where's top of your agenda.
Sure. So definitely the lights, which are glowing behind you. I'm dying to go there. And also what Ariella mentioned, St. Petersburg. So I was actually almost on the way there when I was going to Vienna and Lithuania and Latvia, but then decided, your escapades. I didn't have enough time. So St. Petersburg, I heard, is just beyond magnificent. I'm dying to go there. And a place I've never been, which is the crazy thing, is Spain, Barcelona. So that's also somewhere I'm dying to get to.
Well, I think my top, when travel opens up again, my top is actually to get to Bhutan, the happiest place in the world, and to go hiking to the Tiger Monastery in Bhutan. I'd absolutely love to see that as well. So, and if I were to recommend one place which no one ever goes to, just off the coast of Panama are the islands of San Blas, where you can go a place, one hut and a coconut tree on a beach, or two huts and two coconut trees, or you can go to an island with 20 huts on and discover you are the only non-Israeli in an island of 39 other people. And that's where speaking Hebrew is absolutely essential. But the most amazing Jewish community in Panama, kosher food absolutely everywhere, in Bocas del Toro, kosher restaurants, kosher hotels, Chabad's there, one of the most beautiful shuls in the world in Panama City as well. So strongly recommend. With that, it's after 11 o'clock. Oh,
wait, Ariella wants to say something.
Just one thing before you dash, because talking about Panama triggered the 4.5 years I lived in South America. And if you have not been to Colombia, I'm telling you now, guys, there's a place called Cartagena. It is mind-blowing. And there's a hotel 5-star that used to be a monastery that's been converted for a 5-star hotel called Santa Clara. That is insane. And what I can tell you as a Jew being in Colombia, there are only 5,000 Jews. They make enough noise for 1 million. And even down to the tropes of how they say Kiddush and the kosher restaurants, if you needed to draw a parallel to South Africa, your Joburg is your Bogota, your Barranquilla is Durban, your Cartagena is Plate. You will be so comfortable there as a Jew. You will fit in. Everyone's neurotic. It's fantastic. But that is another place that if someone wanted to go, I would recommend. What a beautiful place.
I would recommend Cartagena as well. Can I tell you, Hugh, this may be of interest to you. The Jews of Panama in Panama City all en masse agreed to move into one area where they all live in high-rise buildings, where every building has a Shabbos lift, and where you cannot send your kids to the Jewish day school unless you keep kosher at home. It's one of the requirements.
Wow.
So all the Jews in Panama City keep kosher, and because no other kid will come to your home if you don't keep kosher. It's an amazing community. With that, I want to thank Dan Stillerman. Dan, can I say, on our WhatsApp groups, not only do you devote a huge amount of your time, your platform, your energy to all of us, but the fact that you made a donation to the Jewish Report as well is just absolutely astounding. You're a mensch, you're a tzaddik, and we cannot tell you how much we appreciate you and love you for everything that you do for our community, for the Jewish Report, and every single day. People will not understand how much effort these panels actually take. Dan and I spend most of Friday in dress rehearsals with kids singing, and we do it late at night, and at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning, we're still talking to each other. Dan, you're
Thank you. Thank God for Shabbos as well. I switched my phone and everything off for 24 hours. It was glorious.
Now you understand the glory of Shabbos. Dina, thank you so much for putting this entire panel together. It's been such a fun evening. I think so many people had such a great time virtually traveling around the world. Dan, we know soon you'll be in Canada, and may it happen sooner rather than later. Let the lockdown actually end. Let's get on an airplane again. And Ari, you look like you go to some of the most amazing places in the world. Let's sit down with a glass of wine or a bottle of whiskey and compare some notes. And Hugh, you are allowing people to get in touch with their roots, and that's just one of the most amazing things for all of us who've been to Lithuania or Latvia and discovered our roots. It's just such a beautiful experience to go through. So to everyone tonight, thank you for staying online. We probably still have well over 100 people who've been watching us, but I keep on saying I need to go have dinner. Dan, you need to get some sleep. So to everyone who watched us, a huge thank you from the Jewish Report. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon with Yid Kids Got Talent. And again on Tuesday evening, we will see you for our Keeping You and Your Business Afloat panel run by Herschel Jarvitz, nearly said Herschel Mayers, by Herschel Jarvitz. We'll see you on Tuesday evening. So thank you all for tuning in. Love you all, and we'll see you soon.
Thank
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Travel safe. Stay home. Bye.